Truckee.com now. Your comments will be read or played during the agenda item. Okay, agenda item 2 is roll call. Carissa?
Vice Chair Gove.
Present.
Commissioner Freeman.
Present.
Commissioner Hull.
Here.
Commissioner Tarnay is not currently present.
Okay, agenda item 3, due to the virtual nature of the meeting, we'll forego the Pledge of Allegiance. And agenda item 4 is an opportunity for public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Carissa, do we hear any public comment?
We have not yet received any public comment for agenda item 4.
Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment and move on. And on to public hearings, agenda item 5.1 for the Pixton Residence Appeal, application number 2020-12. If you would like to submit a public comment, please call or text 530-428-6555 or email planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com now. Are there any commissioner recusals or disclosures?
No.
Okay, Danielle, do we need to note that we anticipate Commissioner Tierney to recuse herself once she does attend is able to attend the digital meeting?
Yeah, she already made us aware of that, and it's a continuation essentially from another meeting where she recused. So we'll just put that on record.
Okay, so is somebody working with her right now and letting her know that we have started the meeting and not to join in until we're done with agenda item 5.1?
This is
Go ahead, Carissa.
This is Carissa. Can Kimberly or someone from the IT team confirm that for us, please?
Susie has been given an invitation list or an invitation to this meeting. I can communicate with her that she needs to recuse herself, and I will let her know when she should join. Would that be after this agenda item?
That would be right now, this agenda.
Okay.
historic form for the modern picture window. So I just took a quick look at what was existing near the project, what other historic resources in the residential McGlashan character area look like. And while we don't know yet what that picture window was originally, there is evidence that it wasn't necessarily a large picture window. Yes, those are seen quite a bit in the downtown commercial core, but it is not something that we traditionally see in this residential character area. So based off of that review, as well as the architectural inventory, identification of a potential restoration opportunity to replace the modern picture window with a more historic form, staff thinks that this direction is probably more in line with what the historic design guidelines seek for historic restoration of existing properties. So based on the direction from the commission at the May meeting, staff noticed the new action to the public and has modified the resolution to approve the project with conditions. So therefore, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission overturn the decision of the Community Development Director on the Pixton residence exterior modifications, approve the appeal of the Community Development Director's decision to deny the issuance of the certificate of appropriateness, approve the window replacement component of the Pixton residence exterior modifications project with conditions of approval, and determine the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3. And if the Planning Commission chooses to take action today, the appeal period for this project, it could be appealed to the Town Council, would end on June 26th at 5 p.m. So I'm here to answer any questions, and I do believe the applicants have a presentation as well.
Thank you, Yumi. Okay, and do we have a representative from the Pixton?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and you have a presentation for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna read something first here. We can leave this up. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Again, thanks everybody for being here. We're pretty excited to get this project buttoned up. So in the last meeting that we had, the size of the window was questioned. Now, if the size of the window were an issue, the Historical Society would discuss that with us in previous meetings. But I did look into it anyways, and I could not find anything that stated whether or not this historic window is too large or not. The historic guidelines state to keep the building as similar as possible, but there are no guidelines or requirements on the size of the window. It just says to keep it as similar as possible. It seems that the window has been here since the historic report in the 1990s, and that in the picture that we have in the last meeting was the earliest picture of the house as well. I did search with Sean from the Historical Society a while back, and we couldn't find any photos of the home that were usable. They're super pixelated, and they were too far away to even verify if it was the house. We do not want to change the look of the house by making the windows smaller, which was suggested by somebody in the last meeting. Also, the large picture window is the only source of income for the house, and decreasing that size would dramatically change the feel of the interior of the home. There have been, this is actually a question for Dave, probably most likely. We were curious if we could get the same look if we encase the vinyl window frame with the wood trim instead of replacing the picture window. It seems like it would have the same desired look from the street as well. I'm not sure if you can answer that now or if it should wait until the end. If so, we'd prefer to take that route. Otherwise, if there's no other option, we'll have to replace the front two windows. Even though it's my understanding the right smaller window is grandfathered in, but we agree that the two windows should look uniform from the street. We do not feel comfortable changing the size of the window due to the negative effects it would cause on the interior. So in the PowerPoint, so, these are downtown pictures. They're pretty much the same era. Next slide, please. They're all big windows there with small windows as well. Same with this photo, but the Richardson house here is going to be the most similar to what we saw, with a large picture window in the center there. Again, the historic design guidelines, chapter 19 for the McGlashan says, quote, "Don't try to change its style or make it newer or older or more ornate than it really was. Confusing the character by mixing elements of different styles is also an example of disrespect." And next slide, please. So the picture on the left is the old picture, the only picture that we actually have of this house. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the 1990s picture. And that window there was actually just a large piece of raw glass secured by caulking, and it had no traditional wood framing on it, and it was also broken when we purchased it. And the picture on the right is the current state, which we would like to keep looking the same as the old picture, to just keep the charm of the house the same. And I think that's all we have on. Oh, and so this is the interior looking out. You can see that's the only thing that's there. When anybody walks into the house, that's like, the best part about the house is that big picture window. And that's really the only window on any wall. So, and I think that's it. Is that correct, Yumi?
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to remind everybody out there in the public that's participating in this meeting that if they would like to submit public comment, please call or text 530-428-6555 or email planningdepartment@townoftruckee now. Okay, so we'll move on now. We'll have a commission clarifying questions for staff and commissioners. I'm going to just go through the way we would normally be sitting on the dais. So we'll start with Jerusha. Move on to Mr. Freeman, and then I'll finish up. When we get into the next one, we'll start with Susie, go to Jerusha, Dan, and then I'll finish up again.
You're now the host.
Okay, Jerusha, do you have questions for staff to clarify?
I do not. I have no clarifying questions.
Commissioner Freeman, do you have questions for staff?
I was not as big as I would like.
No questions for staff. I think we discussed this last time in detail.
Okay. I don't have any questions for staff either. Okay, Commissioner Hall, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not.
Commissioner Freeman, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, so Tracy, is she still with us?
I am.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just can't see you on my screen.
That's okay.
So I just have a couple clarifying questions. And I think you mentioned that you said that the front window is the only source of income for the property. I believe you're trying to refer to that's the only source of light on that south face. Is that correct?
Yes. Sorry about that.
No problem. I just want to make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding what this property was used for, and I missed part of the conversation. Okay. And then are you proposing then that as an alternative to replace this window, you would suggest that we keep the wood sash double hung window on the right, and then this vinyl window now you're proposing to put like a wood clad trim around it that encapsulates the vinyl so that we get the wood look, but it's not the you don't have to go through the replacing of the window for the expense and the trouble. Is that what you're suggesting?
And that's what we're asking. We fully understand if you guys want to change the window, but we just feel like, this is for the look. And we feel like if we do encase it with wood trim, it would give the same look. So it was just kind of a hope, I guess.
Sure, no, it's an interesting concept. So would you be proposing then that the wood trim would then return all the way to the glass and actually abut the glass?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, that was the only question I had for you, Tracy. So right now we're going to open for public comment. Carissa, do we hear any public comment?
As a moment ago, we have no voicemail, no text, and just a moment while I refresh the inbox here. No emails, so no public comment received.
Okay, so hearing no public comment, we'll close public comment. And considering we heard no public comment, we don't have any reason for the appellant or staff to respond to public comment. So we will move into deliberation on this item. Commissioner Hall, would you start, please?
I would need to see like a mock-up of that, or just an example. I know they showed us the what was the yellow house? I forget the name of it. The fancy one.
Richardson House.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that the look that they're going for?
I mean, it sounds like the concept would just be that it would, just be that big square picture window. And then instead of having, replacing it, they would just do some sort of, I mean, if you're looking at the picture, are you looking at the picture of the house right now, Jerusha?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the double hung window on the right. And that trim, I believe that trim is still existing around that double hung window. Yumi, can we go back to a picture of what the house looks like currently without it trimmed out? Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so the double hung window around on the right, it looks like it's got about a 1x4 or a 1x6, wood trim around it. And it sounds like what they're proposing is that there would be that same mass and scale of the wood trim going around the vinyl window, but then there would be a return that actually abuts up to the glass. I mean, essentially just encapsulating that vinyl and making it so that you really can't see it. You'd still be able to see the vinyl from the inside, but from the view of the street, I think it would achieve the look that is the goal.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're splitting hairs here. I don't have I'm not sure yet, and I have nothing else to deliberate on at the moment.
Okay, all right, well, that sounds good. So why don't we just move on to Commissioner Freeman, and we'll just keep the conversation going.
The applicant is still intending to replace the double hung window, is that correct?
Yumi?
That's what the conditions currently say.
So I'm not opposed to their new idea. It's just I think that the trim on both windows needs to match. So not just the finished profile. If they're going to now wrap all the vinyl and have it returned to the glass, I think both windows need to match.
Agreed.
Which might be more difficult than it sounds once you get an old vinyl window or a vinyl window with a new wood window and trying to get the profile to match is where I would see the challenge. If they can make it look exactly the same, great, but I don't know if it's worth the effort to run the risk.
Well, that would be their choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we could say, your two options are replace the window or trim it out with wood to match the double hung window exactly.
Yeah, and that'd be obviously, the depth, the width, make the heads both match up. So it's not impossible, but it might be difficult.
Okay.
And if I may interject, Vice Chair, there are other windows all around. Is there any, would that then be something you would consider on all the windows or just the front? Is that the only thing that's under discussion right now?
If memory serves, I believe that we agreed that we weren't as concerned on the windows around the back and the sides of the house, and that it was really, we're trying to just preserve the historic characteristic from the street as a concession to the appellant.
So I would just chime in here that if that's really the intent of the commission.
I can't hear you. Hang on. Danielle, say that again.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Okay. If it's the intent of the commission to preserve the historic character, these picture windows were not historic. So the Richardson house, if you look at the historic inventory for that, one of the restoration opportunities is to actually replace that picture window. So what we've typically seen in going through and working in restoration projects with homes like these is that they had two side-by-side double hung windows. Mm-hmm. So I think, if you're going to make findings and this is the direction you want to go, if it's based on the historic integrity, that window type is just not historic. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay. Jerusha?
I like the idea of making sure that the front two windows match. I much prefer the look of the two double hung in all these historical buildings, but I know that's we've moved on from that. So the front windows need to match, and it would be my preference that the side windows and the way they're framed out and trimmed or whatever match as well.
Okay. I mean, that seems like a reasonable ask. Commissioner Freeman?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think all the trim in the whole house should match. I almost think that goes without saying. I mean, last time we told them that this needed to be a wood window, correct? And now we're just debating if they're allowed to wrap it in wood trim to make it appear like a wood window.
I believe so. And from, I mean, Dan, that, windows are made out of a lot of different materials. I mean, you can have a wood clad, metal window. It's not uncommon for them to be, for different materials to be, several different materials to be in one window package. And if we're getting, if they think that's going to save them time and money, and they've got a carpentry crew that can pull that off, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. As long as, there's somebody who's going to review this when it's complete to make sure it does indeed match the intent of having both windows match and meet the historical intent.
Okay. Danielle, can you speak to that?
I mean, that would be Yumi's role. So if the commission makes a decision that the requirement is that windows match, then that's part of her inspection she does before finaling out the project.
Okay. Yumi, can you help us out with some language that we can add to this? I mean, if I feel like that's, are we getting close to consensus here, you guys?
I'd say so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Just to let you guys know, we're not opposed to doing wood windows on the front too. We just were asking if that option was available to frame it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think what we're working on right now is coming up with some language that gives you the latitude to make either one of those choices, but then also has a backstop for us, the town, for Yumi to go out there, should you choose to, clad that one existing vinyl window with wood, that she can go out there and see that it looks the same.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure you guys understood we're not opposed to changing the front two out into wood if it's going to be an issue.
I think, yeah, I think we're going to let you make that decision.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. For those of you that can't see, Yumi is feverishly typing away.
So I don't have the exact condition language in front of me, but it sounds like you want to give them the option. So either they would replace the windows on the front facade, both of them, to wood windows, or they could replace the window on the right side with a wood window and then trim out the glass picture window to appear as a wood window, and then ensure that the trim is consistent. I'm not sure if it was throughout the building or just on the front facade. So you may want to discuss that, or if this is not what the language you wanted, let me know.
No, I think that's pretty close there. Do I hear a motion from anyone?
Just to be clear, it looks like you would be modifying one of the conditions of approval. And Yumi, I don't know if you have them in front of you, but it looks like it's condition number 8, where we had talked about researching the picture window. So we would want to include that in the motion to reflect the revisions Yumi just raised.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve, I guess, is it Resolution 2020-07 with the revisions to the condition of approval to allow the 2 options on the window replacement and trim, and ensuring that the trim is consistent throughout the building.
And then it sounds like you would also like to remove condition number 8, which requires research into the historic form of the picture window.
Correct.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, at this point, we are going to take a 5-minute recess and allow the IT department to make contact with Susie and also the applicants for the next agenda item. So right now I have 4:35 p.m. We will reconvene at 4:40. some IT. I'm going to wait till I get the direction to call the meeting back to order. Okay, we ready to go? Okay, great. Okay, so nope, we're not ready. Fits and starts here. Okay, are we ready? Good to go. Okay, all right. Sorted out all of our technology issues, so we will call this meeting back to order after our recess and move on with agenda item 5.2, which is for Tahoe Honey Cannabis Delivery Service, application number 2019-115, public hearing minor review. At this time, I'd like to open public comment for this agenda item. If you have a public comment to make, please call or text 530-428-6555 or email planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com now. Are there any commissioner recusals or disclosures? Nope. Okay. Commissioner Freeman, are you there? Commissioner Freeman.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay. And also, Carissa, can you please note that Susie has rejoined the meeting? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the staff presentation. Yumi?
Hello, we're talking about Tahoe Honey Cannabis Delivery Service. Tonight, the Planning Commission's role is to consider the requested use permit for the cannabis delivery service, make findings and a CEQA determination, and then if you do move forward with approving it, it would be the third implementation of the, it's no longer that new, but the cannabis regulations. Wintergreens was approved 2 Novembers ago, I believe. No, last November, and then Tahoe Herbal Care was approved, but then withdrew, and then Tahoe Harvest was approved last October. To give you a little background on the project, this is located over on Industrial Way. The building was approved in 2004. It's a there are two two-story industrial buildings around 8,600 square feet with 3 residential units. On site, there's Stewart's Marine Service, Doctor's Office for Pets, Tahoe Supply Company, and then as noted, there's 2 residential tenants above the building in the back where the proposed project is located, and then the 1 residential unit above the building at the front, closer to Industrial Way. And here's the actual location. It's on the building at the back, as you can see. The applicant is requesting a cannabis delivery service for both adult use / recreational marijuana and medical cannabis as well. The tenant space is approximately 1,500 square feet, and that's for 800 square feet of warehouse, 200 square feet of storage, 200 square feet of office, and approximately 200 square feet of employee area. The project is located within the manufacturing zoning district, and it will be required to go through state licensure protocols, and then it would not be allowed to be open to the public No retail sales are allowed as required by our current regulations, and only deliveries would occur from this site. The project, as noted, is within an existing building with shared parking. There are 2 spaces allocated to the cannabis delivery service on site, with 1 garage space within their tenant space. They, at this time, believe they'll have 1 to 2 employees and expect that deliveries will occur between 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week within 1 company vehicle. So as noted previously, our general cannabis regulations are allowed, cannabis is allowed in general commercial, service commercial, manufacturing, and downtown manufacturing. And as noted previously, only delivery services are allowed within the town. And so we rely on our development standards that were adopted by our town council, which requires that cannabis can only be, has to be at least 600 feet from sensitive uses, has a 3,000 square foot floor area limitation. It has to be within a fixed structure, and they're required to get a use permit and a cannabis delivery service license. But this license is issued once the use permit is approved by the Planning Commission. So the town put together some maps that show where these locations 600 feet from sensitive uses are, and this project does fall within one of those sites. So with staff review, we found that the project complies with all the development standards, and the applicants intend to be fully compliant with the state requirements. And once, if approved, the cannabis delivery service license will be issued once all the other criteria are met. We have not received any public comment about this project, and based on all of the findings and the conditions of approval within your staff report, staff is recommending adoption of Resolution 2020-08, determining the project is not from CEQA per Section 15061, and approval of the use permit. And then if, as always, the Planning Commission may consider alternatives, you may continue the hearing, or you can add, modify, delete conditions of approval within the resolution. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer your questions. And also Charles Willett with Tahoe Honey Company is here. And if you choose to take action today, the appeal period ends on Friday, June 26th at 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Yumi. Mr. Willett, you have a presentation for us?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. Fire away.
Okay. If you want to put it up, Yumi, go right ahead. So I wanted to say good afternoon, commissioners and staff. My name is Charles Willett, and I'm the owner of Tahoe Honey Company. Before I give my brief presentation, I just want to take the time to thank you all and your staff for the opportunity to hold this hearing virtually. I know that times have been truly crazy and strange during these last few months, and I do appreciate you all making every effort to continue the town's business as best you can. I'm sure it's been tough, to say the least. It's been pretty crazy. Without further ado, I will start this in a moment here. Yeah. Thank you, Yumi. As I stated a moment ago, I'm Charles, the owner of and operator of Tahoe Honey Company. I graduated college in 2007 from Virginia Commonwealth University with my BA in Business Administration with my concentration in small business management and entrepreneurship. I moved west to California and have been a resident of Truckee for many, many years, where my longtime girlfriend and I actually just welcomed our first child into the world over at Tahoe Forest 3 weeks ago. Tahoe Honey Company was founded in 2015 and operated within state compliance under the Compassionate Care Act, Prop 215, and State Bill 420. We shut down the business as of January 9th, 2019, as per the state of California's new regulations and laws. Our company took part in the town of Truckee's extensive public forums that were held regarding the creation and adoption of the current cannabis ordinance. We take great pride in understanding the medicinal benefits that cannabis has brought to. We take great pride in being a small, locally owned business that has the ability to foster positive growth for our community and positive impacts for those around us. We also take great pride in being a valuable member to the local business community through those positive relationships with not only businesses, but other local residents. Next slide. Thank you, Yumi. So as you know, we submitted a complete application back in July of 2019 for the conditional use permit for adult use and medical cannabis. And we've been working with Yumi over the past 11 months to ensure compliance. And I just want you all to know that myself and my team has tried very hard to put forth an application full of thoughtfulness and creativity for the community that we live in. We've also worked tirelessly with Yumi and the town to ensure compliance for all aspects of our project. And we thank you again for allowing our project to move forward today. Next slide. Thanks. So you know the location, and it's in the manufacturing M zone. And as Yumi noted, that it does meet all the requirements for use. And, you know, I take hiring locals for all aspects pretty seriously. And what I mean by that is that we'll not only be hiring any potential employees from this immediate community, but we'll also be hiring local contractors for our small tenant improvement to create our secure inventory room. We've teamed up with local contractors that work closely with the town in many capacities already on other projects, so as to ensure that we're keeping it local in most everything we do as a company. Last slide. Thank you. And then I could go on and on for you all for a very long time about our security consultant, Mr. Terry Blevins, and his extensive credentials as a leading cannabis security consultant in this entire country. He was a police officer in Southern California as well as Arizona for about 25 years. After retiring from the force, he went into private security, where he became the security director for companies such as Beats by Dre as well as Apple. And he's been head of security for such celebrities as Lady Gaga. He now runs a successful cannabis security company where he has written over 300 cannabis security plans just in the state of California. The plan that he wrote for our delivery service in Truckee is quite extensive and covers all aspects of our operations from a security standpoint. We've tried our hardest to go above and beyond of what is considered the industry standard for security culture regarding delivery services to show not only that we take security for our own company's assets extremely seriously, but also to show the town that we care about the security of this great community that we live in. We have many policies and procedures in our security plan that go to ensure that there is absolutely no diversion of any products and that our business is secure from any public access. Because of this, we utilize two main theories of best practices for our security. The first being the concentric circles of protection practice, which requires that there be multiple layers of protection that a perpetrator would need to defeat in order to reach the protected assets. This gives the quick response of the Truckee Police Department time to react in order to thwart the attempt and prevent loss. The second is our checks and balances security practice, which requires that no single individual other than myself, the licensee, be allowed unrestricted access to assets. This not only prevents insider theft and product diversion, but also avoids situations where a single individual is taken hostage and coerced to provide access to unauthorized persons. I want you all to know that we tried to assess and evaluate many possible scenarios to ensure the safety for not only our employees, but the community in general, where we operate our business in a safe and discreet manner. Lastly, we have written extensive SOPs for all areas of our business to execute the highest level of compliance with this fast-changing industry. These extend over every area from product compliance, safety and security compliance, and of course, employee training and continued education in the areas of California state cannabis compliance, because that can be very tricky. We take great pride and responsibility in not only understanding these laws, regulations, and principles by which to operate, but that we integrate them in every facet of the business on a daily basis. And then again, I really appreciate you guys, all the time that you're all taking to consider the approval of my project. And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to try my very best to answer any and all questions you may have for me. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Willett. Yeah, please stick around in case any of the commissioners have any questions for you. In the meantime, I'd like to take a moment to remind anybody out there in the public that if they would like to make a public comment, to please call or text 530-428-6555 or email planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com now. Okay, so moving on to commission clarifying questions for the staff. So Susie, we're going to go ahead and start with you. I mentioned that in the last agenda item that we're going to just move on the way we would across the dais. So we'll start with you, Susie, with any questions you have for staff, followed by Jerusha, and then Commissioner Freeman, and then I'll finish up. So Susie, do you have any questions for staff?
Great. Thank you, Dave. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
Yeah. Okay. I just have one question for the staff. I talked to Yumi earlier today about there's condition of approval 15, where it requires that if the applicant decides to sell any food or edibles, they might need to contact the county environmental health department. I think they mean just if they plan to manufacture that, and should we change that statement in the condition of approval number 15?
I tried to contact the Nevada County Environmental Health. They didn't respond in a timely fashion. So I would just suggest leaving it in as is, and then they could, if the applicants contact Nevada County Environmental Health and there's no need to take any action, we would not require any additional action.
Okay. And the applicant, I think, raised his hand, and when I have questions, I have a couple of questions for you. So later you can answer that then too.
Yeah, we'll give Mr. Willett a chance to address any of the questions that we have and to make any clarification once we're done at questioning the staff. So thank you, Susie. Jerusha, do you have any questions for staff?
I do. I just wanted to double check that the setbacks, I know we worked on that mapping exercise like 2 years ago and had to ensure that that this was in the right zone and appropriately distanced from schools and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to do a double check on that.
Yes, so we haven't changed the map since the original ordinance was passed, and I think Jenna could correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think that just when a new sensitive use moves in, I don't think that changes the map. But I don't think that that any sensitive uses have moved in that vicinity.
That's correct. Once the maps are created, if a sensitive use were to move in subsequent to approval of a cannabis delivery service, we don't require that the cannabis delivery service relocate. So it's really just once we approve them, they're there as long as they want to continue. And then just a thought, the licensing that we're allowing doesn't actually require for any kind of manufacturing or production of products. So if there is heartburn on Commissioner Tarnay's behalf related to that condition, we could certainly take it out. As I understand it, all delivery services are really getting all of their products sent directly to them, already prepackaged with the track and trace in place through the state.
Great. Thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Freeman, questions for staff?
No questions for staff. Like this is similar to the other project we approved last fall, so I think I'm covered.
Okay, so we'll move into clarifying questions for the applicant. Susie, you have any clarifying questions for the applicant?
I have a couple. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yep. First of all, I just want to say I love that you are using an all-wheel drive hybrid. I think that I saw you at some of those public meetings, and you guys were very environmentally aware. So related to that, is there any ideas to help with the solid waste stream from this industry, the packaging to reduce, reuse, or recycle?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I mean, to be honest, this has been a major point of contention for all of us retailers or wannabe retailers in the cannabis space is, when the very robust cannabis regulations were created a couple years ago and they went overboard with all the packaging stuff, it ended up creating this massive waste with a lot of the packaging. So the short answer is we're going to be trying to recycle things, and there are a few companies, vendors that we may be purchasing from that are implementing recycling of like the glass jars that flowers will come in and things of that nature. Any company that does anything like that, I'm going to be absolutely taking full advantage of. On the other side of things with cannabis waste, which hasn't really been mentioned by me at all, just because it's more of an afterthought, we are going to be teaming up with, per state law, we will be teaming up with a certified and sanctioned by the state of California and the Bureau of Cannabis Control, a cannabis eco waste company. So if there are any returns if there was a bad batch for some odd reason and we needed to recall, take anything, we needed to destroy anything before it ever went out to a patient or a customer. There are very, very strict protocols and procedures on the state level of laws for how we have to handle. We have to document it in a log book, and then I have to get a certified company to come pick it up from my spot. It won't ever leave. It will never leave the lock and behind closed doors of our warehouse before a company comes, puts it in their secured vehicle and drives it off. Hopefully that answers that.
Yes, I appreciate that answer. And I did see some mention of that, the recall issue in the staff report. So thank you for mentioning that. Just a couple other questions. Is there air ventilation requirements for nuisance odors, or is there nothing required for that licensure because of the packaging?
So for retail storefronts and for delivery services, there is not anything currently in the state laws. However, I will, and it probably goes because of the way that everything comes to us. You know, long gone are the days of any of us physically touching any cannabis product. You know, no cannabis product will be open in our business at all. I mean, there will be absolutely nothing that's open. It'll come to us sealed in a child-proof, tamper-resistant, sealed, vacuum-sealed packaging. So in theory, no smell should get out. Now, and all products will stay in our secured inventory room that we are creating within the warehouse portion of our property. So I'm firmly in belief that no odors will escape. If any odors did escape at all, I would be very quick to mitigate them.
Okay, and there's no requirements in any of the licensing to provide.
There is not, no.
Okay, perfect. Hey, there was an attachment C at the end that had like a map with circles and numbers. Was that something that we were supposed to be getting something from? Because I have no idea what that was trying to show us. Do you know? It was on.
Yes. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, I've looked at all of these so many times. Attachment C. Yeah, I think it was just another, a further map of showing exactly where it was located, where the property's located in the town. I think that they wanted an aerial, multiple aerial images, I believe, in my application, and I was just trying to provide as many pictures as I could.
That's fine.
I apologize if it was confusing.
No, I just didn't know if I was missing something. And then it looks like it's big enough. Can two cars actually fit in the garage space? So if you have your delivery vehicle and your drop-off supplier, can they both fit in there at the same time?
Yeah. So the goal is at the beginning of the shift, say, you know, I show up at 7 a.m. or 8 o'clock in the morning, I would pull in my my personal vehicle into the warehouse bay and back out the delivery vehicle. And the delivery vehicle will just sit in front of the warehouse bay during our business hours, just while we're doing deliveries. And then I would just do that swap before I leave for the night, so that our car, the company vehicle, stays behind the locked bay door. But yes, absolutely. When a vendor is bringing us products, there is definitely enough space to where if I pull my personal vehicle over to the one side, then that vendor could easily back up. We could close the bay door. It's one of the absolute beauties of this particular property and this setup. It really does lend itself to even further secure deliveries between myself and the vendors.
Great. That does sound very secure. One last question. Do you have any concerns about having the same initials as the Tahoe Harvest Collection, also a cannabis business?
No, not at all. And I'll call it what it is. Yeah, we've been around since 2000. We've been around since 2015. The residents of Truckee know us. We've been around for a long time. We've taken a momentary pause for the past year and a half, but I think that everyone will remember that we were here. I'm pretty confident.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the new addition to your family, and thank you for answering my question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarnay. Commissioner Hall, do you have any clarifying questions for the applicant?
One question, do you sell products other than cannabis? I'm just saying because of your name.
Yeah, so not to be confused that we, so that's a two-sided answer. Yes, we do, but only on the apparel and clothing and cannabis accessory sides of things. If you're wondering if we just sell honey, we do not.
Okay.
As of right now. There are plans for us in the future. We're currently trying to obtain a manufacturing license in another location, and that would provide the ability for us to bring the name full circle and to offer a cannabis-infused honey option for people. But yeah, okay. As of right now, no. We will have a website that will provide, we're working on a very extensive website that will provide, if you're a medical patient with a valid medical card or over the age of 21, you will be able to enter into one aspect of our website where you can order cannabis goods. If you're under the age of 18, then you can enter into a simple Shopify cart where you could order a hat, a beanie, an apparel item, something that is not a cannabis good.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Freeman, do you have any clarifying questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I was just curious, how many full-time employees do you anticipate hiring?
Yeah, so the COVID thing put a major weird spin on all of this. So I've kind of changed things. I mean, as of right now, it's just going to be myself and one other person for the foreseeable future, to be honest with you. I'm going to bring back one of my ex-employees who's a local who was working with me for several years. I'm going to bring him back. And hopefully I get to the point where I can expand. But as of right now, just two of us.
Okay, that was my only question.
Okay, I do not have any questions for you, Mr. Willett, but also congratulations on the newborn. Right now, at this point, we will go ahead and open public comment. Carissa, have we heard any public comment on this agenda item?
Yes, we have. We have received an email. Shall I read that now?
Please.
I'm reading the email. It says, my name is Diana Gamzin, and I am the Executive Director of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. We are the Cannabis Trade Association based in Nevada City, representing over 200 members of the Nevada County cannabis industry. We support the approval of Tahoe Honey Company and are encouraged that there's a retail outlet in Eastern County that can support local Nevada County farmed cannabis and Nevada City-based products. Our members who cultivate on the San Juan Ridge and throughout Penn Valley have won statewide recognition for their cannabis. The cannabis sector in Nevada County is a growing and important industry for the local economy, and we look forward to connecting the supply chain from Western to Eastern County. And I will refresh the inbox to make sure there's no further comment, no further texts, and no further voicemails. That is the only public comment I have received.
Okay, thank you, Carissa. We'll close public comment. Right now, Mr. Willett, if you'd like an opportunity to reply to that public comment, you can have the floor.
The only thing I'd like to say is when Tahoe Honey Company was opened several years ago, we have been a supporter of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance and Diane and everything that they do. They're a quite good organization, and we actually have partook in a few of their charitable events that they've put on, and we're looking forward to bringing some of the companies that they have down there in Nevada City and Grass Valley, and we definitely will be carrying some local Nevada County companies, absolutely 100%. So thank you.
Okay. At this point, commissioners, we'd like to move into deliberation. Again, we'll go ahead on down the dais as if we were all here together, starting with you, Susie.
I'm all good. I think it sounds fine.
Commissioner Hall.
I have nothing further to deliberate. Excuse me.
Commissioner Freeman.
Same. Nothing to deliberate.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we approve item 5.2.
Okay, can we have the language, Yumi?
Okay, do you want me to read that?
Yes, please.
I move that we adopt resolution at 2020-08 and determine the project exempt from CEQA on section 15061B3 and approve the use permit. Enough?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, at this point, we'll take another recess. I want to get a little feedback from IT. Last time we took a 5-minute recess so that Kimberly could reach out to the applicant, and it seems like it took a few minutes longer to get that together. Should we take a 10-minute recess?
Sounds great.
Okay, so I have 5:12 p.m. We will reconvene at 5:22.
Thank you all.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Moving on to agenda item 5.3, Frischman Hollow 2, application number 2019-74, minor public hearing review. Right now, I'd like to remind everybody out there, if they would like to make a public comment, to please call or text 530-428-6555 or email planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com. Now, do I hear any recusals or disclosures from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the staff presentation. Yumi?
Hello, we'll be talking about Frischman Hollow 2, which is an application you did review back in February and approved a development permit for this project. Oh, let's see. As you may recall, Frischman Hollow is located along 89 North, on the west side of 89 North, between the two roundabouts, Hennis Road roundabout and Prosterdam Road roundabout, across the street from what will be the village at Grace Crossing. As in February, when you reviewed the Frischman Hollow 2 project, you approved 68 new affordable housing units within 4 buildings. There was 2 building A's, which have 30 units each, and about 30,000 square feet of building each. Then there's 2 building B's within the north side of the project site, and they each have 4 units each. Additionally, a natural play area and seating areas with picnic areas with seating were also approved. Additionally, as part of the approval, there were 136 parking spaces, and realignment of the existing Class 1 trail, and then a potential bus pullout off of Truckee Way. So in February, the Planning Commission adopted resolution number 2020-04, approving the following conditions: approving the project, the development permit, use permit, and project amendment, and adopted a mitigated negative declaration for the project. As part of that approval, the Planning Commission required that the applicant team return to review the landscaping screening, particularly along 89 North and the Class 1 trail, outdoor recreation amenities, and architectural features for the buildings. Tonight, for the most part, I'll let the applicants show what they've done to address those Planning Commission concerns and provide justification for their design, but I'll run through their submittal and reference these slides as necessary throughout the deliberation. So the 3 major questions that are identified within your staff report are: does the proposed landscape plan adequately address the Planning Commission's concerns for screening from 89 North and the Class 1 trail? Will the added expanded amenities provide additional passive and active recreational opportunities to enhance the quality of life for the project's current and future residents? And do the added architectural features adequately address the Planning Commission's concerns for the design of the project? Also, as noted within your staff report, staff has asked that the applicant or the Planning Commission review the color palette and determine if the colors are appropriate. Dave, is your mic off?
Yeah.
Now it is. Okay, that's okay. So I broke it down into the 3 items, and this is just a before and after showing what they are proposing today. For the most part, all of these projects, all of the changes are primarily, they're showing more specific landscaping and detail to the project. Before, it was a little more generic and more conceptual in nature. So this is showing the landscaping at the southeastern building, and it shows more specific landscaping. They added 5 trees from the original proposal. They noted that there is quite a bit of an elevation change along 89 North to this building, which provides some additional screening, particularly for the ground floor of the southeastern building. And then they did note that if there is potential for berming or added soil, they would look into that once the buildings are in. Additionally, for the southwestern building, they provided more detail in their landscaping plan. And so, as I noted, the main question for the landscaping is, does the proposed landscaping adequately screen from 89 North and the Class 1 trail? So as part of your review, you may require additional landscaping, different plant types, make sure and ensure that's consistent with the development code. For outdoor recreational amenities, just for a refresher, phase 1 has a common building with manager's office, resident gathering room with a full kitchen, computer study room, common laundry facilities, and a restroom. It also has a small central playground area, and then there's a trail with a pedestrian bridge to Alder Middle School that is already all of these items are already constructed as phase 1 of Frishman Hollow. As part of the Frishman Hollow 2, what was previously proposed was a natural play area with climbing rocks and a covered picnic area over by the southwestern building, seating and picnic area north of the southeastern building, and then a community gathering with picnic area at the north end of the project site. And most of these items are still part of this project application. So I'm just going to give you a zoomed in view of each of the amenities that they're proposing today. So the southwestern building, they're still looking at doing a rock climbing play structure and a picnic area with shade. At the southeastern building, they're looking at a picnic area with shade structure. By the B buildings, as required by the Planning Commission, they moved the picnic tables and benches to between the two B buildings rather than keeping it closer to 89 at the request of the Planning Commission. So they are showing that here. And then I think the biggest change since their previous review was that they are proposing to expand the playground for phase 1. So they would go back in and look at how they could expand the play area, and they're proposing to add in new artificial turf, keep the existing play structure, add a new tot lot, and expand the existing play area in general. So this is a lot of text, but generally the idea is, do these expanded and added amenities provide enhance the quality of life for the project's current and future residents? And it should be noted that these requirements, the outdoor recreational amenities, they have met the actual standard that's within our development code. This was just a discussion that happened during the February meeting where I think the Planning Commission wanted to see more potential for outdoor recreations, given the fact that there was a reduced amount of private open space in the way of decks and patios for each of the units. So the applicants at that time were amenable to coming back. So as part of this discussion today, I would recommend that if you have ideas or recommendations or considerations that you want the applicant team to look at, maybe make it more of a dialogue and see what would be possible, especially given the fact that the building envelope and site design has primarily been already set in place and approved. As for architecture, the Planning Commission wanted to see some additional architectural features on the building. The applicants did primarily focus on only the 2A buildings. They didn't really look at the B buildings to add any additional features. As part of this application or this review, they have noted that on the right-hand side is the proposed architecture today, and then on the left-hand side, it's the previously reviewed architecture. So you could see some changes. On the side elevation, the middle image, the applicants have brought the dark metal siding down to interlock with the other material. They've added shed awnings at the ground level on all sides of the building, and then they changed the color scheme a bit. The red color is now is used as an accent on the side and is brought to the middle on the front and rear elevations. And the applicant team can discuss why they thought that was more successful. And then the fiber cement panel system was changed to a fiber cement board and batten siding instead. So here's the rendering of the side of the building primarily. You can see the metal siding coming down, interlocking with the other material types and colors, and then the awnings that they're proposing. And as noted, building B has not changed. And additionally, staff is asking that the Planning Commission look at the materials. So this is what the material board looks like in the plan set and how it relates to the elevations. I think within the conditions of approval of the previous resolution, there was talk about maybe looking at more earth tone colors, looking at the red color, the tan colors, maybe making them a little richer, and possibly making the metal roofing system at the bottom maybe a darker color since it is pretty white. The applicants have provided a material board, which we did tell the Planning Commission that they could go look at on site if they wanted to. This is what they have provided. The red color in the image on the left, that wasn't quite correct, so they repainted and took another picture that's shown on the right. So that may be a more accurate image of the color red. So the main question for architecture is, do the added architectural features, the changes in material, do they adequately address the Planning Commission's concerns for the design of the project? there is some difficulty. The building envelope, the massing and scale of the building has been set by the previous resolution. So this is pretty much just looking at the skin of the building and how the Planning Commission can see if there's a better way to address the architectural concerns that they had previously. And then finally, as staff noted, staff would like the Planning Commission to look at the colors. So far, the staff has not received any public comment, but Kirsta will let us know otherwise. And as noted within your staff report, we did do an initial study mitigated negative declaration for the previous approval. Staff has found that the new changes are still consistent with the previous environmental review of the previous project. This is just a secondary review for that same project, and no new environmental review is necessary. So today, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission review the project, determine if all of those findings can be made, all of those questions can be answered, and if so, adopt resolution number 2020-09 and approve the proposed landscape plan, outdoor recreation amenities plan, and architectural features, and find the project consistent with the previous environmental document. And as noted here, if you do choose to make some changes, there isn't a set of conditions of approval within that resolution in your staff report, but we can add in another exhibit if you do find that there are some changes you'd like to see. So, and if you do, other alternatives to consider tonight is to continue the public hearing to a date and time certain. You may request additional information from the applicant and their staff, or you can add or modify add conditions essentially, since there are no other conditions to modify. And if you do choose to take action tonight, the appeal period ends June 26th at 5 p.m. And applicants do have a presentation.
Okay, thank you, Yumi. Let's go ahead and move on to the applicant presentation, please.
Hello, commissioners. This is Caleb Roop speaking. I'm the CEO of the Pacific Companies. And on the phone with me tonight, or I think everybody's just on the phone if I'm not mistaken, is Chris Grant, who's our project manager, and then Tom Phelps, our landscape architect, is on, as well as Walt Lindgren, our project design architect. I don't want to repeat a lot of what Yumi carefully has already been through, so if we just want to advance the slide, Yumi, to the next one, just to summarize what we are talking about, and then let's go ahead and advance to the next one. And this would be something Yumi didn't cover, and just to give you guys an update of where we are with the project. If you may have been by it, but we have started to remove trees, and that process is coming to a pretty quick close. We are intend to start grading activities later by the end of the week, I want to say, as well as the rockery walls that are really applicable in that building A1 area. So that's kind of the current status. We're on pace, as we said we would be. The modules are nearly all built, and we are going to start shipping those to Truckee within the next few weeks. And if everything goes according to plan and we don't get beat up by weather, we have a good chance to have the building there without its skin on by the end of October. And so that's kind of our schedule right now in terms of where we are in the process. But if the next slide will just kind of summarize quickly the elements to be discussed in terms of the three areas, and then just kind of orient you to the three areas of the site. We expanded the picnic areas, as Yumi mentioned, put that between the building. We did a lot of work on the screening side of things. I think one of the things to note is on the landscape plan, we added 24 trees. And again, if we get into specific questions about the landscape plan, we have Tom on the phone that can speak to it. So next slide, Yumi, if you could. The first area we'll just discuss briefly is just to give you guys kind of a quick view of what we did between the two smaller buildings, and the next slide's okay. You can see there the heavy detail of that and kind of how we relocated the picnic area to between the buildings. Did a little bit more screening kind of near the trail, and just kind of expanded that area, made it kind of a nice little amenity location, and I think it's going to work out really good. It's going to be a nice little protected area that I think residents will really enjoy. So that's at the north part of the site. If we go to the south part of the site, you can kind of see the area we're focused on now, kind of more toward the entrance of the property. And then there at that location, we're right up against the trail. Yumi kind of covered it, but small playground features, natural in appearance. I think the thing to note on this one is we, per your guys' direction, we did some more screening between the play area, amenity area, and the parking. And if we want to go to the next slide, showing kind of, we're going to move over to the east now to the last building. And that's, again, where we focused on just providing more detail, getting that landscape buffer in for fire control, and then concentrating a pretty meaningful amount of new trees in that area. So that just kind of gives you an approach to everything. And then finally, we'll end up in the middle of the property, the existing property, and advancing one more, Yumi, if you would, looking at the idea for the play structure there. It'll be a nice open area, bigger than what we have already, and go with a natural or an artificial turf product that really holds up well, doesn't fade, and is, soft fall features. Kind of building some connectivity there between the two areas, and actually making the whole place better for everybody that's living there. Finally, we'll move into, just real quick, the screening elements we worked on. The Highway 89 frontage is probably what's most relevant on all this, but we did take some time to screen the trails to a greater degree and provide some more specificity, so that gives you an idea. And then again, when you guys get to your questions, Tom can answer those if you have anything specific. So I want to move to just give you some quick looks at Frischman 1, just to refresh your memory more than anything, kind of how those colors look and shape and the feel of the buildings. As you can see in this program here, this is what we originally proposed to you guys. And this building massing and size and everything is pretty consistent with phase 1 and doesn't have much impact. So we didn't want to really make many changes to this building. But if we go to the next slide, what we wanted to try to do here is give you a kind of a darker color option. And I kind of believe that this color palette actually matches a little bit better with the existing property and the existing buildings that are there. We didn't really want to try to distinguish these buildings too much one from another. We wanted to give it kind of a cohesive architectural and neighborhood feel. So we went with this. This would be our choice if you guys were in agreement. But we did give you a lighter color option as well, and that's the next slide coming up. And that just provides some offsetting accents. I think on this building, it's probably not nearly as significant in terms of its architectural relief, but as you get to the bigger building, it probably has more significance and more weight. So we'll go to that now and look at that. From February, and again, one of the things I do want to point out is when you look at this, we've kind of removed what would otherwise be landscaping in front of that building. So we're trying to just give you a look at the building architecture without the landscaping that would likely be in front of it. But just know that in all of the building shots you'll see, and obviously is absent the landscaping that will become present. We do have one at the end of the slide deck if we need to go to it. So if we can move to the darker color option there, you can kind of see what the difference is. It's got a slate gray as a part of the elements now. We've added some of the architecture features that Yumi mentioned. We like the look of this building. We can do more to it if you so deem, but we tried to do some shed awnings that we thought would be helpful. And again, Walt is on the phone and can speak to that further if needed. But moving to the last slide there on the colors, just to give you an idea of what an accent would look like. Maybe it takes down the scale of that building a little bit, might be worth considering. Again, these buildings are tucked up into the banks that are there on the south end of the property. They also have, certainly from the south, heavy wooded area abuts them. And what you'll see on the next slide is kind of the view from Highway 89. The next image here doesn't show much of a difference other than that building sinks in a little bit. But you can see it's a pretty protected area. We've added some trees in there that they're going to help screen that even further. I think one of the things I do want to point out is that I would personally like to Once we get the building set, maybe just do a drive and kind of get a feel for where the screening really would be most appropriate, and potentially, if you guys are good with it, allow staff to allow us to modify the plan in some ways, because we might find it's a little hard to exactly anticipate where the best screening should be located with just conceptual drawings. But once it's on the deck, we have a much better look for and feel for where it would be a good place to plant trees. So, with your permission, it would be nice to be able to amend that based on actual conditions once we finish them. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on, and then I'll turn it back over, is the berming we did study. And what we concluded with the berming is that we were faced with a choice, and so we didn't propose any berming because it was going to mean elimination of more of the existing trees that are already there. So we opted for no berm in our approach, and then working on looking at that sort of live screening once we get the building on the deck to see what other opportunities there might be to screen, as well as give you a better feel for how it's going to look. I think one of the things that'll be interesting is when we get the buildings, the modules set, that'll be a white Tyvek type product, and so it's going to stand out really well through the trees, and that'll give us at least an option to really be able to see where the impacts are. But then again, when we side the building, it's going to blend in again, so it's going to disappear pretty meaningfully. But if we look at it while it's recently set, it's going to give us the best opportunity to study where the greatest visual impact might be. So that concludes what I had, and I'll turn it back over to you, Yumi, or the commissioners to have a discussion and answer questions. And like I said, my team's on the phone to be able to speak to whatever you want to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Roop. At this point in time, I would like to encourage anybody out there, if they have any public comment, to submit their public comment to please call or text 530-428-6555 or email planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com now. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move into clarifying questions for the commissioners for the staff. So, Susie, we'll go ahead and start with you. What questions do you have for staff?
Okay, well, we just heard from the applicant that they've added 24 trees. Has it been, do we know, are any of those trees added up at the northern corner? I haven't been able to figure out specifically.
Tom, do you want to speak to that if you can hear the question?
So, Mr. Roop, right now we're
sorry.
We're direct. Yeah, no problem. Commissioner Tarnay is just questioning staff. After we go through and all the commissioners have a chance to ask their questions of staff, we'll move over to the applicant, and we'll look forward to hearing from you then.
Got you. Thank you.
I would defer that question to the applicant.
Okay. Okay, I think most of my questions are for the applicant. Give me 1 second, sorry. Yeah, so most of mine are for the applicant. That's all I'm good.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarnay. Commissioner Hall, do you have any questions for staff?
One question. I appreciated the different color versions A and B that they did for the buildings, the darker and lighter. Were those palettes reviewed by design review, or was there any additional review outside of Planning Commission on those colors?
The only review was originally, before you looked at it in February, there was an architectural review, and there was I think there were some color changes since then, but we haven't looked, the architectural review hasn't looked at these current colors that they're proposing.
Okay. Is this something that, does staff weigh in with an opinion on this, or is this strictly a Planning Commission decision?
Well, today staff is asking that the Planning Commission weigh in. Sometimes we have conditioned it where they would just work with staff. Mm-hmm. But since we are here, I saw it as an opportunity that the Planning Commission could weigh in. But if you want to defer and let them work with staff, that's fine. I think that they're looking for some direction as quickly as possible so that they can continue moving forward on their construction.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Freeman, do you have questions for staff?
Yeah, I mean, I liked the applicant's suggestion to review the landscaping on site after the buildings are there. Is that something staff can do, and what does that process look like?
Yes, staff can do that if the applicant is willing. Normally we do the landscape plan and review and approve that before we do a building permit or before they install the landscaping. But we can, if they are amenable, we can create a condition that says that they would work with staff to find additional locations for landscaping or berming if feasible.
Okay, yeah, that was my biggest question, to see how we can get the applicant moving forward without having them submit another landscape plan if we don't find this one acceptable. So that's the only question I had.
Okay, I do not have any questions for staff, so we will move into questions for the applicant, Commissioner Tarnay.
Great, thank you. Okay, is the applicant here? Okay,
yes.
Not perfect. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the screening to screen this from view from the vehicles. So I'm curious, I'm more concerned about screening the road from the residents. So are we adding any more trees up at that northern corner where those buildings get pretty close to screen for the residents' comfort?
And this is where, Tom, can you hear the question and can you respond to that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. Thank you. We've got a total of 92 trees we're proposing to plant on the site. And in terms of the distribution of those, and specifically the ones that are screening the property from the highway from the east, up at the northeast corner, the two B buildings, we've got 21 of those 92 trees proposed. And those would be specifically along that eastern edge. Building A1 down in the south east corner, there's 22 of those trees surrounding the east and south sides of that building. I also like to point out that that particular building sits about 10 feet below the top of the slope. And so almost the entire lower story is completely screened from view. And so the renderings depicted that, but I just wanted to point out that there's about a 10-foot rockery wall being constructed along that south side. And then also the southwest building, building A, there's 9 trees directly along the south side between the picnic area and the points of the bike path where that comes together. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'm good. Has everybody any communication with the current residents there, how this affects them, what amenities and playgrounds and surface types they were interested in, like surveys or anything?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we've had a community meeting, as you guys know, with all of our residents, and then we've been actually engaged with them on a regular basis because construction is going to start and it's going to be an active area. That by far is the biggest disruption to them, because the next 9 months at least, but probably till the spring or summer, we're going to see a lot of activity out there. The good news about modular is that that'll be a much less disruptive process than normally they might be exposed to if this was a conventional build. But they are going to experience some of that, and we've got to traffic control and manage that effectively. We have asked our management company to develop a list, and this is something we would do kind of as our normal protocol in our properties from time to time, but we've asked them to kind of develop a list of the things that are working well with the property and are not working well with the property from their point of view. One of the biggest ones we already came away with was parking, so we've actually increased the parking count, which actually was in your packet and was approved back in February. But that was probably the number one thing they were concerned about was parking. When it comes to the play areas and play surfaces, they love it, and they said if it could be bigger, that's the only thing they cared about. So it actually kind of nestled nicely with what we talked about at the meeting in February, and so they've endorsed that as a good feature to add to the property. And of course, they're getting the benefit of that. It's located really concentric to where they are going to be anyways. That's the main feedback we've got, kind of those two items. And so we've proposed accommodations accordingly, but we're by no means done, I would say, and there's other things that will come up naturally, like they do on a property.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate that. There's been the involvement with the residents, the current ones. So it looks like I'm a little bit confused. There's artificial turf replacing some actual grass for that new playground. I think you're replacing the ground up tires in the old playground. Is that correct? And is there anywhere else that real grass is being replaced with artificial turf?
Tom, do you want to speak to that? I think you were involved, right?
Yeah. When the Planning Commission asked us to come back to the area and look for opportunities to expand the recreational opportunities for the residents, the three center lawn area, the three center areas, the existing play structure has an existing small lawn area you see here that we're proposing to convert to a tot lot. So that was one of the requests, to separate the ages of the kids. So we have a tot lot, and then the existing structure is more of a older kids play structure. The existing structure does have the ground up rubber tires, if you will. It may not be specifically tires, but it's essentially like that. We found that the artificial turf fall zone material is really good because it's readily accessible for anybody with any accessibility issues. So it's nice in that regard. We've increased the areas to expand sort of the fall zone, especially of the existing structure, so that we're making sure that there's adequate room around the structure for kids to move around and have a fall zone. The tot lot area is existing grass, that little footprint you see beneath our proposed footprint. We would remove that lawn area and expand that area to the artificial fall zone material as well, along with the play structure. The play structure right now is just a placeholder. Typically, those are a deferred submittal that the playground vendor that we work with will submit a package based on Mr. Roop's assessment of the project and the survey of the existing tenants, what they'd like to see. So we try to accommodate that as best as we can. And so I hope that answers your question. Does that help?
Close. So is the current, it looks like on here, I think you were replacing that current, whatever that black ground up material is, with the same artificial turf. Is that true or no? Am I
That's correct. That is correct. Okay. Yes, we're gonna take out that existing fall zone material and replace it with new artificial turf type material that's consistent with the new area that we're doing. So it'll, as well as expand the footprint of the existing area a little bit. And then we also would like to connect the two spaces with like a bridge or walkway there in the center. And then obviously there's an existing connection along the bottom to the community building. But yes, we're going to refurbish the existing area as well.
Probably the other thing to note, Commissioner Tarnay, is that color is going to change from like a darkish, brownish, blackish color for the fall material that's there now into a green. So it's actually going to be a little bit better fit from our point of view, and keeping it more like open space is meant to look.
Okay. I'll tell you why I'm concerned. The elementary school just recently removed their artificial turf and have since replaced it with that engineered wood fiber. And so I just, there may be new technologies that might have been an older type. It was less successful. It was that green turf, but it had the black tire bits under it that came up through it. So I don't know the technology on that, but I was just curious because that was a recent change in town. Is there other places? The rock climbing area, is that also, that's not a turf? What is that surface?
So the surface over on that play area would be more of a fiber bark material, like you mentioned your local school just replaced. And so it would not be artificial turf over there.
Okay. Just when they get hot in the sun, I have to say the wood smells nice and the turf smells like tires. So you had three, I'm going to move on and you can do what you want with that. You had three bench types listed on one of your kind of a cut sheet type thing, a Laguna, one with a back and one without a back. Do you know which ones you were planning on? Or was that just the cut sheet for the picnic table?
Well, typically we like our site furnishings to match, be like a series of like materials. Typically the benches used on projects, Pacific Company projects, have a back. And so we don't have a real strong preference either one unless this group does, but the recycled outdoor furniture cut sheet, that product line was something that Chris Grant, our project manager, worked with on staff to select, and so we're working with you to provide that.
Super. I just that one that was called the Laguna type definitely looked more comfortable, if that is possible, not too expensive. It looked, yeah. Anyway, so then. Okay. I'm just trying to make it so that the residents that live there have usable, areas. We have the two southeast and southwest buildings. They have shade structures, and those are those the same size?
Yes, I guess the answer would be they're shown identical. The actual product or the structure itself hasn't been selected yet.
Okay. And then one of them is shown with 3 picnic tables. One of them is shown with 2. Is that just a random thing, or will there be different numbers of picnic tables?
I think in this presentation, it was just a random thing. We don't have a set amount. Caleb can probably speak to that as to what he thinks is appropriate, but that we usually distribute those based on where we see the most use.
Okay. Now it shows the north buildings as having optional umbrellas. So I don't know if this is a concern or brought up, or if it's just my concern. We're a fairly chilly place. For me, it might be nicer to have an optional umbrella versus the shade structure, just because here we are in mid-June and it's chilly. It might be too cold to have shade structures, and it might be nicer to have the optional umbrellas. I understand that then that's definitely something that needs to be replaced more often than a shade structure, but I just wanted to throw that out there and see how you felt about that.
Well, how I feel about it is, furnishings like that are often programmed, once we kind of see how the site comes together completely. But based on what you're telling us, we're fine if that was the direction you wanted us to go, to use, you use basically temporary shade up and down type structures if needed. I mean, that doesn't bother us a bit. Quite frankly, sometimes, you want the option, and a permanent structure doesn't provide that. So I would be fine with that adjustment if that's what you guys thought was in order.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I want to say that I appreciate the change in the architecture. I think it really made a big difference on that side of that building. And I appreciate you guys really striving to make this a livable and nice place to be. So I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarnay. Commissioner Hall, do you have questions for the applicant?
I do not have questions for the applicant.
Commissioner Freeman, questions for the applicant?
Yes, looking at the exterior materials, I see that the RF2 is not actually called out anywhere, and I'm guessing that is the shed roof material.
Commissioner Freeman, this is Walt Lindgren. That is correct, yes.
I guess we can talk about that after, about that material selection. It seemed like a maybe not ideal material that's going to be kind of as visible.
Okay, we can get into that when we start deliberations. Did you have any other questions for the applicant right now, Commissioner Freeman?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, great. I do not have any. No, I do have a question. I stand corrected.
Commissioner Grove, can I interject? Commissioner Grove, this is Tom Phelps.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, I think Commissioner Freeman had mentioned review of the landscape placement on site with staff, and I just wanted to just reiterate what Caleb said, that we'd be more than happy to do that. I actually include inspections of the project during the course of construction, and so the middle inspection is when I inspect plant material for quality, and that would be an opportune time to meet with staff, your staff, to look at the project, and we'd be more than happy to work with you to find the correct placement with that. So I just wanted to leave you with that we are certainly amenable to working with staff, placing plants, and so we have opportunities during construction where we can meet with you and do that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that comment. We'll definitely discuss that in deliberations. Okay. At this point, I would like to open public comment. Carissa, have we heard any public comment on this item this evening?
We have not received any new public comment on this item.
Okay, hearing none, we're going to close public comment. Now would be an opportunity for freshman staff to freshman applicant or staff to respond to public comment, but hearing none, we'll move on to deliberations. Commissioner Tierney, what say you?
I like the addition and the changes on the architecture. Personally, I do like the darker color option. The existing buildings that are there right now are more of a chocolate brown, and I think that darker option is closer to that. I like the addition of 24 additional trees. I think that's really helpful. I do agree that if you add the berms, you're going to have to take out some trees. So I'm all in favor of tree preservation instead of that, and adding more trees in versus having to take the trees down to build a berm. Mature trees always, they store more carbon for greenhouse gas emissions. So I would prefer to keep the mature trees there. I think it looks better, and I like it, and I even like the darker color better. Hold on.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarnay, and I apologize. I did have that one question for the applicant. My question about was about how tall are the tallest trees out of those 24 trees? What height ranges are those trees going to be?
Well, they vary. All of the plants are selected from the Tahoe. I'm drawing a blank on the whole name of the book that we used. That's your publication, but they're native and for adapted species. But the white firs, the Jeffrey pine, those are bigger pine trees, conifers. They are using some medium-sized deciduous trees. There's paper birch, there's quaking aspens intermixed throughout the site just for variety. But most of the plantings we're using for screening are the conifers. So we've got western incense cedar, Jeffrey pines, and white firs predominantly. And those are a blend of what is already there. We're just planting more natives and adaptive species to complement the site.
So would you say those would get to 40 or 50 feet tall?
Oh, easy. Yeah, the conifers especially, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving back into deliberation, I apologize for that. Commissioner Hall, what do you have to say?
I absolutely echo Commissioner Tarnay's comments. I'm really impressed with the time and thoughtful changes that you made to the project for the rec amenities, the architecture, the landscaping. I did now that Commissioner Freeman pointed it out, I guess this isn't really the time for question, but I wanted to understand that RF2 and where that's going to go and sort of understand how visible that light color
Yumi,
will
can you pull us pull up one of the elevations that has those lower shed roofs on it so that we can get some clarification on that, because I have a concern about that as well. And then was there a picture of this proposed architecture where it had the darker color scheme to it? There we go. Okay. So it's still showing that lighter roof on the lower awning sheds. I guess it would be everything but the comp roof on the top of the building. That would be probably my understanding of it.
So not the underneath, the top.
No, I mean, it's, I wish I could point this out to you, but okay. So in the rendering, we've got, the entrance where there's the two pedestrians coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's showing that lighter section there. And then there's the shed awnings over the windows.
Yep.
My understanding is that's where that lighter roof would be. And then above the third story, that's the darker composition shingle roof. Dan,
Right.
is that what you're seeing too, Dan?
Yeah, that's what I saw. But now that I'm looking at this revised with darker colors, I mean, this does not match the material sample that's on site. I looked at today. I don't know if we have that image in our packet.
When you say it doesn't match, what are you saying is not matching?
The samples on site match what's on page 17 of our packet, which has the lighter color, hardy siding, the horizontal lap siding, the much lighter, like a cream color or light brown.
If I may, I have not, this is the first staff has seen the darker color palette, so we have not. There's just a material board that's out there that shows these colors that are proposed on your screen right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So that RF2 or whatever it's called, that concerns me. And then what also concerns me is where you see the two ladies standing just above them, the white of that under area that just, I feel like that's going to really pop. Yeah, right there. I mean, is there a way we could go with something that looks white?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell from a rendering, right? But I hear your concern. So, okay, how do we overall feel about the darker versus lighter color palette for the body of the building?
I like the
give
darker.
us a thumbs up.
Darker.
Darker. I agree. I mean, if it's okay, so let's take everybody's temperature here. I mean, I think, would it be fair to assume that we're all leaning towards a pretty streamlined approval on this project this evening? Yes? Okay. I would be comfortable leaving this up to review at the staff level. If I feel like, yes, that RF2 material is a little bit too light. And I feel like the reflected soffit could be a little bit too bright as well. But I don't want to hamstring this project or us in trying to micromanage these little details. I think that we can give the direction that we can have staff take a look at this and the screening once the building is set. I think that Mr. Roop brings up a really good point that when these boxes are set and they're going to be covered in Tyvek, that's going to be the most visually impactful time of this project in its entirety. And we can allow staff to go out there and have a look, and they can, give them the latitude to manage their landscape plan accordingly.
I would agree. I would just suggest we add a condition of approval that RF2, the soffit, and the landscaping, are contingent upon staff direction and approval.
I think Yumi's about to start feverishly typing. Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Tarnay?
It sounds good to me. Yeah, I hadn't really noticed that lighter color, so now that you say it, it stands out. But I like the darker overall scheme, so whatever happens, it's all good.
Okay. Commissioner Freeman?
I guess this is a question back for the applicant. What is the soffit material on the whole project and the underside of the flat decks?
Well, do you want to take that, or do you want me to answer? If you're still with us?
Yeah, Caleb. Yeah, I am. Yeah. I would say it's my guess is, probably haven't really defined it as much, but I would say that it's probably a fiber cement board siding or soffit material. So yeah, the RF2 was always intended to be the tops of the brows. And so to add an accent, we just didn't want to add another color to, a three-part color scheme. So, but certainly open to those suggestions. But that was my take at it. Caleb, you want to address that further?
No, I just would say that I was just waiting for your answer just to double check, but it would be a hardy material. That's how we do really all the soffits on a fiber cement board finished building, and can be painted any color. So that white softening area there, can blend in with the base color without any trouble. There's no predetermined colors for any of that.
Okay, that would be my only stipulation, is that the soffit material is something, dark that matches the rest of the building, and I'd kind of like to see the RF2 be replaced with maybe a corrugated brown roofing or something that's going to be a less of a contrast.
Yeah, got it. Okay, very good.
I agree.
Sharing will end if it, whoa, no, I don't want to make.
All right.
For a split second, I asked if I wanted to make Jerusha presenter. I'm like, no.
Okay.
Please don't.
6 is just indicating we've gone.
Somebody's got a microphone on in the background there. If we could get that muted out, please.
Which just indicates we are now.
Chris Ring, it looks like your microphone is unmuted right now.
All we're doing is taking a break.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Okay. Shenanigans from the IT. Okay, commissioners, do I hear a motion?
I motion to approve. Let me pull up this to adopt resolution 2020-09, and I guess approve the proposed landscape plan with staff to further review on site, and find the project consistent with the initial study, mitigated neg deck report for the Frishman Hollow 2 project, CH number 2219-071, and no new environmental review is necessary.
Second.
Okay, and we got the added language in there, Yumi?
Yes, the 3 conditions were to look at the darker option, to use the darker option that's presented in the presentation by the applicants. To look at, the applicant shall work with staff to darken the soffit and RF2 materials, potentially looking at a corrugated brown roofing for the RF2 material. And then the applicant shall work with staff to review additional landscaping opportunities along 89 North once the boxes are set before the siding is installed.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Freeman, seconded by Commissioner Hall. All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Roop.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate all the partnership with the town, and have a great rest of your meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, at this point, I am going to, let's go ahead and take how does a 20-minute recess sound for everybody? Get up, stretch, have a bite to eat, get the IT back together. You guys okay with that?
Honestly, that doesn't work well for me. I'd rather keep moving.
Rather keep moving. Okay. At this point, we'll take a 5-minute recess so that the IT department and staff can notify the next applicant that we will be hearing their agenda item 6.1. So it is 6:16. I'll see you at 6:21. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are moving on to agenda item 6.1 for the Pioneer Industrial Park, application number 2019-143. At this point, I would like to remind the public that if they would like to make a public comment, they can submit public comment by calling or texting 530-428-6555 or emailing planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com now. Okay, do we hear any commission recusals or disclosures?
No.
Okay. All right, we're going to move into the staff presentation now. Yumi?
Hello again. Let's see. I don't know why this keeps changing. Better. Okay. Hold on. Okay, sorry, technical difficulties. We're talking about the Pioneer Industrial Park. The project is located at the end of Trails End Road, which is accessed off of Pioneer Trail. Adjacent uses include AvantWorks to the east, a car repair company, a construction company, Gallagher Construction to the north, and a TD PUD facility to the west. And the project abuts Interstate 80 to the south. The project is located in the manufacturing zoning district in the industrial general plan designation. It is lot 9 of the Pioneer Commerce Center Phase 3 subdivision, and it is 0.6 acres in size. The applicant is proposing 2 buildings, one main building, which is approximately 3,400 square feet of industrial space with up to 2 tenants, and 2 two-bedroom residential units above 980 square feet and 776 square feet. And then there is a smaller accessory building towards the east of the site, which is approximately 700 square feet, and it's only 1 story tall. 11 parking spaces are proposed, and a 1,200 square foot outdoor storage area is proposed on the western part of the project site. So here are some images, some renderings of the project. As you can see, this is the main building only that you're seeing on the screen right now. The materials they're proposing are cedar siding, metal paneling, corrugated metal siding, aluminum clad windows, and garage doors to match the siding. And this is the accessory structure. These are the elevations for the building. They're proposing the same materials, and they're also proposing a one ground mounted sign that is 8 feet tall with 29 square feet, made of concrete, cedar, and steel. To fulfill this project request, the applicants are requesting a zoning clearance for manufacturing uses and multifamily residential dwellings in a commercial industrial project within the manufacturing zoning district, and less than 7,500 square feet of gross floor area with less than 26,000 square feet of site disturbance. A planned development for deviations in the development code standards, including height, parking, and fence standards within the scenic corridor, covered parking requirements, and the parking lot perimeter landscaping requirements. The applicant is also requesting a project amendment. There is a previously approved planned development for the Pioneer Commerce Center Phase 3 that they're requesting some modifications to, and they're proposing a minor use permit for a fence, trash enclosure, and roof eave encroachments into existing easements. And as noted, a sign plan is requested for a ground-mounted sign. Tonight, the Plan Commission's role is to review the site design and architecture, ensure consistency with the development code, determine if the modifications to the code through the plan development create a superior project, and determine if the findings for the exemption to the mandatory feature for the plan development can be made. So to give you a little background on the project, in February 2005, the Planning Commission approved Phase 3 of the Pioneer Commerce Center, which included 17 industrial lots and a utility parcel. One of the biggest components of the review was the location of this project within the I-80 scenic corridor. The development code requires development within 100 feet of I-80 that is thoughtful and actually it's 300 feet of I-80 that is thoughtful and sensitive to the visual impact of passing motorists. The general standards of the scenic corridor require that proposed structures and parking areas shall be set back a minimum of 100 feet from Interstate 80, and no structure shall exceed a maximum height of 25 feet within 300 feet of Interstate 80. Street lighting shall be low level and pedestrian scale, and the requirements for enhanced landscaping and screening are required in this corridor. with a average depth of 190 feet for lot 9 through 4. The scenic corridor creates a pretty small building envelope for these sites. So as part of the 2005 approval, the Planning Commission approved a planned development to modify the scenic corridor standards for lots 4 through 9 of this subdivision. And the setback for the buildings was reduced to 50 feet rather than 100 feet. And once the buildings were set back 100 feet from I-80, the buildings could be the maximum height that's allowed within the development code, which allows up to 50 feet in this zoning district. Additionally, as part of the approval, the Planning Commission required their review for any structure or use for this property to determine the impacts of the project on the visual corridor. And then outdoor storage was prohibited on these lots. In 2012, the Planning Commission approved a modification to the outdoor storage prohibition, allowing outdoor storage on the front of the site unless the zoning clearance was approved by the Planning Commission elsewhere on the site. So that's where we are today. So to understand the existing scenic corridor standards for Lot 9, I've created this diagram. There's a 50-foot no building, parking, or structure setback that's shown in light blue, a 100-foot setback where only buildings up to 25 feet are allowed. And then beyond the 100-foot setback, the standard height requirements apply. So today, the applicant is requesting modifications to the scenic corridor standards adopted by the Planning Commission for the site in 2005. As you can see here in this diagram or exhibit, there is approximately 17 square feet of roof eave taller than 25 feet within the 100, beyond the 100-foot set, or within the 100-foot setback, and it's up to 30 feet. So that's what they're requesting today. The applicants are requesting that the planned development allow for the roof encroachment beyond the 25-foot height allowance in the 100-foot setback. And then there's also surface parking that's proposed and a fence within the 50-foot setback, which is approximately 39 feet from the I-80 right-of-way. And the applicants are asking, also asking for a planned development to waive the enclosed parking requirement for the residential units. So there's multiple parts to this planned development request. Some are a modification to the existing plan development, and some are just brand new requests like this covered parking requirement. The addition of covered parking would necessitate building vertically to allow for the same amount of square footage, but that the applicants have found that that would negatively impact the visual corridor from I-80. So they're proposing not to do covered parking for the residential units. This is a site section that the applicants have provided that shows the I-80 corridor or the I-80 right-of-way, and then the view, the elevation change, and the view to the proposed building. As you can see in red, that's the 6-foot fence that they're proposing in the 50-foot setback, and then the yellow is the surface parking that's proposed within the 50-foot setback. Staff also, while you can't see in this diagram, the minor roof encroachment would likely not be that visible. It would be a small encroachment. And as you can see from this exhibit, you would still see the main building behind likely, so it would just likely blend in with the building beyond the 100-foot setback. So the applicants have provided this exhibit showing where the roof line of the smaller accessory structure would be, as you can see in red, called out to building C at 16 feet. The taller sand shed on the adjacent property next door on a Bontworks property is located at a similar depth on the lot to the proposed accessory building, but the proposed accessory building would have a lower roof. So it's showing the potential impacts from I-80. So to help mitigate any potential impacts, staff is proposing condition of approval number 51, which would help soften the view by requiring additional landscaping at the rear of the property. The applicants are also asking for relief from the parking lot perimeter landscaping requirement on the east and west sides of the property. They are proposing a solid wood fence for screening at the rear of the property, but cannot accommodate the required 6-foot landscaping required along parking areas. Based on the linear footage of these areas, the applicants are requesting that basically 4 trees and 17 shrubs not be required to be placed in these highlighted green areas. So the Planning Commission may consider if these trees should instead be placed elsewhere on the property. Right now, the condition is not worded that way. There isn't a quantification for how much landscaping should be placed at the rear of the property, but that is something Planning Commission can consider. Thus far, the condition number 51 requires 6 trees and 24 shrubs at the front, 7 trees and 27 shrubs at the back, plus 5 additional trees to accommodate the tree removal that's existing on site. Additional landscaping is required per the scenic corridor standards. It hasn't been quantified as I stated within the conditions of approval, but the commission can consider whether or not you want to actually put a number to the landscaping, or if you just want staff to review it at the building permit level. So in order to make the findings for the plan development, the Planning Commission must find that the project is a comprehensive project of superior quality. That's the baseline for our plan development. Also, larger projects that are requesting a plan development are required to provide a mandatory feature that goes beyond the requirements of the development code, which are fulfilled by either providing more affordable housing or achieving greater energy efficiency goals. However, for smaller projects, an exemption to this project mandatory feature can be made if the Planning Commission can make the appropriate findings. So the first finding is pretty objective. It's the size of the building or the project, and this project we can make those objective findings. And then there are 2 findings that say, is this the minimum necessary to create a project of superior quality? That's something the Planning Commission should consider today. And does the project achieve other general plan housing sustainability goals that are not the ones that are mandatory for other projects? The applicants have provided their justification within your staff report. So staff thinks that there is some merit to some of their discussion and their justification, but there is the full package should be considered by the Planning Commission to see if these findings can be made. And hopefully the project applicant can help speak to that a little more if necessary. So if the Planning Commission approves the plan development as proposed, the applicants or staff is proposing this language here, which we don't necessarily need to go through right now, but we can go through if we need to make changes or discuss further. Additionally, as noted, the applicants are also requesting a 1,200 square foot outdoor storage area. The conditions of approval, staff is proposing that the outdoor storage fence be solid, all equipment materials be stored in this location, and the equipment and materials cannot be visible above the height of the fence. These are a little more stringent than our general outdoor storage standards, but because it's in the scenic corridor, because this is something that was not originally desired by the Planning Commission, staff feels that the more strict application of these standards are appropriate for this location. As shown here, the fence does not meet the criteria for a solid fence, so the applicant will be required to submit a different design that is solid in nature or solid in design. And then the applicant, as you can see here, the red line showing the perimeter of the fence, it's not a fully enclosed fence. Applicants are using the gaps to access the trail that exists at the rear of the property and to provide, to allow for snow storage at that open space area during the winter. So as part of this component of the project, the commission should consider whether or not the proposed locations of the fencing is appropriate. The outdoor storage, is at an appropriate location? Is it adequately screened from I-80 and surrounding businesses? Should a more complete fence be required? And then as discussed within your staff report, the existing parcel is also encumbered not only with the scenic corridor standards, but with several easements. So this diagram is showing all the easements that are shown on the map, plus another easement that's not shown on the map of the Pioneer Commerce Center map. The applicant is in discussion with AT&T to abandon the 12-foot phone easement, which is shown in purple. And then the 60-foot public utility easement that's actually shown in teal, the third one up from the bottom, has already been abandoned. However, even with the abandonment of those 2 public utility easements, it's still a pretty heavily encumbered site. So with the amount of easements on the property, the applicant is requesting some minor encroachments into the existing easements. The fencing on the west side of the property, the trash enclosure, and a minor roof encroachment on the east side of the property are proposed. As you can see, highlighted in purple, purple lines and purple highlight. All public utility agencies with an interest in these easements have been notified, and no objections were received. So staff believes that the roof encroachment doesn't impede the use and access of the easement, the orange easement. And then the fence and trash enclosure are semi-permanent structures that could possibly be removed if absolutely necessary. So staff believes that the encroachments can be approved. Staff is also proposing here minor cleanup language on condition 32. It doesn't really change the content. I think there was just some weird mix-up language that I put in there. So there, essentially, condition number 32 is requiring that applicants work with AT&T to abandon that easement that's running through the building. Additionally, there's a couple clarifications that were in your staff report. The solid waste program, they're not creating bare boxes for each of the residential units. They'll share the existing dumpster enclosure with the industrial use. And then there was a minor calculation error within your staff report that I've cleared up here. So there's no public comment thus far for this project. And these are the main questions that I've identified within your staff report. Will the proposed deviations from the plan development for the eave, fence, surface parking beyond the 50-foot building restriction line create a project that is visible from Interstate 80? Are the site and building designs, including the outdoor storage and screening fence, appropriate for the manufacturing zoning district? Are the newly proposed plan development requests, the parking lot perimeter landscaping and covered parking exemption, appropriate? Have sufficient design measures been put in place to address these deviations? And can the findings for the exemption for the planned development mandatory feature be made? Staff completed an initial study checklist for CEQA and found that based off the fact that it's an infill site, this is a pretty relatively small project. There's similar adjacent uses and projects nearby. And there was a previous initial study, mitigated negative declaration done for Pioneer Commerce Center, and no large environmental effects were identified within that document. Staff believes that with the incorporation of the development code standards and the conditions of approval, that no significant environmental effect will come from this project. So it's actually, I don't think I noted it here, but we're proposing to determine the project exempt from CEQA section 15061B3 and approve the zoning clearance minor use permit plan development project amendment and sign plan under resolution 2020-10, and that's staff's recommendation today. And then there's two items that I changed. I discussed the minor language change in condition of approval number 32 that I'm requesting that the Planning Commission incorporate in your resolution if you choose to take action today. And then consider condition of approval number 51, whether or not trees and shrubs should be quantified or if more trees should be added at the rear of the property for screening. And then alternatives as usual, as always, you can continue the public hearing to a date and time certain. You can ask for more information from me or staff, or me or the applicant, add or modify the conditions, deny the project on the basis that one or more of the required findings cannot be made, or require additional environmental review. And that's all I have. And if you choose to take action today, the appeal period is the same as all the others, June 26, 2020 at 5 p.m. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Yumi. And now we have the applicant presentation.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Is the applicant prepared to make a presentation?
Yes, I am. Hello?
Hello, welcome.
There you go. Hello, I'm John Black. I'm the owner of this project. I don't actually have a formal presentation to do, but I thought I would talk briefly about the reasons for why we're doing this project and the process that it took us to get us to this point. My wife and I, when we were finishing our last project, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do next, and we were looking around Tahoe and Truckee and Tahoe City, and we really kind of wanted to try and do a commercial project instead of a residential, and we thought that maybe the affordability of doing something like an industrial unit would be something we would be able to do. We found this location, and it seemed like a perfect opportunity to create some more industrial uses that it seemed like the town is very lacking in. And then after doing a little more of the development code research, we realized that we could do a mixed use project and thought that would really be perfect for this area to create some more pedestrian use. Also, its location to downtown Truckee is fantastic. It's walking distance. And we saw with the new rail yard that there'd probably be a lot more commercial uses and that they're probably going to need some more housing in town. So we saw a really great opportunity to help something with the town and the community, also helping ourselves with our goals financially. The process for doing this took quite a bit of time. It's been almost 3 years now. We had intended to have this project only, pretty much done within a year after purchasing the lot. But it took a little while to find out some of the problems that were associated with the lot. The easements that appeared to have been abandoned were not. And it took a while to try and work with AT&T to see if we couldn't figure something out. In the end, it just wasn't financially feasible to relocate the facilities there. So we started from scratch because we had already finished most of the architectural plans with the building on a different location on the lot. And so we had to really basically start from scratch. That really wasn't in our budget originally. So to say the least. But I believe that what we came up with for the redesign and the location was actually probably a little bit, it's more superior, I think. So what we had originally come up with, we lost about 1,000 square feet of commercial floor area, which was a big deal for us. But the new project, I think, design is much better in terms of like its solar gain, its location for the residential units above, further away from the highway. Just about every aspect of the redesign, I think, is much better. Anyways, and we're really happy with it. I think it came out really nice. Todd Mather, my architect, is on the meeting also, as well as the landscape architect, Laura Mello, and both of them can answer more questions if you guys have any. I think that the staff presentation was great, and I want to thank Yumi Don for all the work she's done. Those guys work very hard. And anyways, I'm available for questions, so that's all I had.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, right now I'd like to remind the public that's watching right now, if they have any public comment, that they can submit their public comment by calling 530-428-6555 or emailing planningdepartment@townoftruckee.com now. Okay, so let's move into commission clarifying questions for staff. Commissioner Tarnay, what clarifying questions do you have for staff?
Thanks. Here go. Okay, so I'm going to start with staff. So how often is a plan development granted? Is this granted often? Are they easy to get, or is this more of a challenging process usually?
It's supposed to be a bit of a challenging process. It's something we're asking for development. We're asking for flexibility from our development code. So normally that'd be under a variance where you have to do the minimum possible necessary to achieve what any other parcel in the same area could get. So, but this is a plan development, and that it's a little more flexible where you don't have to find that there's a site constraint. It's just they're providing a awesome project that you think that you can, that meets, it goes beyond the standards and is just needs a little bit of flexibility. So that's the intent of the plan development. And I would say we're seeing more and more lately, probably primarily because the sites that are out there these days seem to be more challenging to develop. So that may be why we see more plan developments. So they can't necessarily fit within our development code. But yeah, I've seen seems to be more lately than before.
Okay, and then has the town granted one with this relief exemption before?
Not since I've been here. Maybe Danielle or Jenna has any. They may know. There was something that was looked at previously by the Planning Commission, maybe last year, but that never came to fruition. So we haven't, not that I know of.
Yeah, I can't think of any either.
Me neither.
Okay, thank you. So that exemption has not been used very often. Okay, just sorry to be a little bit scattered, but so does this fence end up being closer to that bike path than the adjoining properties fences?
Yes. So there is a little, you can see that there's a little meandering that's on the west side of this property. And then also the fence is farther back since all of the other properties were required to meet the 50-foot setback. This one is asking to be pushed back a little bit farther into that setback, about 39 feet from the rear property line. So.
Okay, so that, I didn't realize that trail comes within a couple of feet of the corner there, but there's not actual fence. Is there actual fence there? Because the fence does not connect all the way around.
So it starts right here. That's where the fence starts on that side.
Okay.
And the fence is also over here.
Okay, so that where that little meander of the path comes closest, there's not actually a fence within a foot or two there.
That's correct.
Okay. And what is the scale on that? Are we looking at just a couple of feet there at that corner between the bike path and the...
The bike path and which part?
And just that corner of the property, I guess. Is that will be paved? That will be paved with asphalt. Is that true?
So they're proposing to pave this. I think it follows this fence line basically. Okay. So it is in close proximity, maybe 5 feet.
Okay, so there is room for some landscaping there. Then it's not right onto it.
Yeah. Yes, it would just have to be some hardy landscaping. They are trying to use this area for snow storage as well.
Oh.
They would have to mostly over on the west side. And then what's interesting about this trail, not to go off topic too much, is that it is outside the pedestrian easement. So it does create some challenges for the applicant in terms of snow storage. The preference would be to push it out of the trail, but it is not necessarily within the easement. So it's a little more murky. I don't know how well used this trail is during the winter or if it gets cleared overall. I don't know.
Well, I will say that we as a family use it often, and my son accesses the middle school. Well, he just finished 8th grade, but much of the middle school gets there that way. So is there, the snow storage is it's okay to be on the trail, or is that trail supposed to be plowed in the winter?
Well, the snow storage, he shouldn't be pushing it on the trail. I mean, as I said, the difficulty is that it is outside its easement. So if, as a good neighbor, it would be great if he moved it beyond the trail. I don't know. There is some, obviously with the gap in the fence, there is some room to blow. You could get closer to the trail if necessary to blow over the trail, but it's hard for us to make that requirement when it's outside its easement.
Okay, and can you do me a favor and read the third finding that you would have to make for the relief section of the plan development?
The third finding is that the project achieves other general plan housing, sustainability, or community enhancement goals other than the ones listed on the left, which is the standard requirements.
Okay. Okay, so just moving forward, what would be the rent for a 2-bedroom unit for a moderate income if they were to be required to provide that 25% moderate income?
So this is a moderate income household under today's AMI. So the rent would be based off of a 3-person family, and it is the income would be, the qualified income would be $92,000 per year. So then generally that rent comes down to about $2,300.
So you can't make more than $92,000 to qualify for that?
Yes, that's correct.
And they still have to be able to pay $2,300 per month in rent.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if they did that, is that rent frozen in time, or does that adjust with changing AMI?
It can change with AMI. I would say that once they lock in a resident, we do income restriction unit, if they do lock in a resident, it would just be a negotiation. They would have to still maintain the same amount of rent percentage, but if that person's family starts to earn more money, it doesn't really change the rent.
Okay, and last month we had one of these as well. And there was a lot of talk about the LEED Silver certification. In your opinion, does the LEED Silver provide any environmental benefit to the town in our and the statewide goal towards carbon neutrality?
We're finding that LEED, and then our LEED is pretty. We're finding out from our applicants that LEED is pretty much as good as our California Building Code standards for a green building. So right now it may not be that much better, and that may be something we need to look at as part of our development code updates. But right now it is an option, and it is something that they could offer to do if they are so willing.
Okay. Moving on. So what is the goal of the covered parking requirement? Is that a convenience for the resident, or is that for public screening in residential areas?
I think it's probably a mixture of both. It's probably in residential neighborhoods. We want it so that there is some screening, some storage opportunities for residential units, for residents. And I do think that it does provide it screens for both other storage needs as well as your car from the public right away, but it is also a convenience for a property owner. So I think that's the general reasoning why we have it in our code right now. I would say that it's something that in mixed use projects, we haven't seen or required covered parking, in that it is a sort of a different feel. You see in particularly this industrial zone, you see lots of stored cars outside, so it's less of an issue to see an extra residential vehicle outside.
Okay, but it does, yeah. Okay. Has there been any contact to the industrial businesses in question on West River Street that we are trying to relocate to areas such as this?
The town hasn't reached out to anyone on West River Street. I would say you can ask the applicant team if they've done any due diligence with them to see what their desires are for a particular site if necessary.
Okay, I will ask them in due time. Then on page 11, it said there's the 2 units share a Veribox and they have their own recycling bin stored in the garage. I think that was a typo. Do the residents just use the trash enclosure at the back that's same as the industrial uses would?
Yes, they would use the shared dumpster enclosure. That was a clarification in my staff report, in my presentation.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all my questions for now. I need another minute to look over notes, but if I have another question, Chair or Vice Chair, whatever you are now, if I wave my arm at some point, would you let me to ask another question? Allow me to.
I'm sure we could find our way, navigate our way through a process like that, Susie. In the meantime, let's move on to Commissioner Hall for clarifying questions for staff.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Tarnay. You had great questions, and that was helpful for me. Yumi, I'm confused on the fence. Are they proposing? Can you please go through that one more time?
So there are 2 components to this fence. Well, there might be 3 components. There's a fence that they're proposing beyond the 50-foot or within the 50-foot building setback line, as you can see here in red, which is
that's the red.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they're proposing. Nope. This includes that same fencing. It is also, they're proposing outdoor storage, which is shown on the west side, that enclosed area. There's a gate that you can see at the rear of that. And then they're proposing fencing along towards the trash enclosure. And then there's fencing on the eastern side of the property line up to the building. So that's what they're proposing. The main components that are probably of interest is the screening fence at the rear, which is that adequate fencing to screen the use from I-80. And then the outdoor storage fencing. Is that an appropriate location for the outdoor storage? Is the fencing designed appropriately? Is there something else we could do to make it more desirable or aesthetically pleasing, I guess, to help reduce the impacts on potentially I-80 or adjacent property owners?
Can you just highlight with your cursor exactly where the trail is?
So let me see if I can get a highlighter. Hold on.
Or it doesn't need to be highlighted. Just scroll.
Okay, I'll point to it. Here's the trail. This is the outline of the upward portion of the trail.
Okay.
And then, as you can see, it parallels at the bottom.
But the town requires that fences are enclosed.
Well, we require a screening fence for the site. So let me pull up and it may be that it needs to be enclosed fully if you think that will provide the better screening for I-80 and for adjacent neighbors and for passing pedestrians. Those are all. I don't think it has a clear requirement that it needs to be fully enclosed, the site itself. It just needs to have.
Got it. So maybe that's where I was getting messed up. I thought you were saying that it need to be enclosed, but you're saying it's for screening, not to enclose the site.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do we know what the proposed use is of the second building that's closer to I-80? I mean, what?
I do not know what exactly. So none of these uses have been approved. So we're just looking at the building. It's generally going to be a manufacturing use, but for any use, they would have to come back actually to Planning Commission, no matter what kind of use it is, for review and approval.
Okay. And then the deal with the easements, the fact that they thought those easements were not in place, was that a mapping error? How did that happen?
So there's some notes on here that say that, I think it said on the map itself that was originally created that the 60-foot public utility easement was to be abandoned, and hadn't yet been abandoned on the map for some reason. And then the 12-foot phone easement had never been abandoned, but there are so many easements on this.
Yeah, this site is so tricky.
So maybe it could have been a little confusing until you actually mapped it out. I think AT&T was even confused when I talked to them about where their actual utility lines were. I think they were surprised to see it on adjacent properties that there are some buildings on existing easements, which isn't great, but it is something that, so I think everyone was confused by the site, and it took John, the applicant, coming forward and actually doing the work to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Freeman, clarifying questions for staff, please.
Yeah, one last question about the fence. So are they not having the continuous fence so they can use that space for snow storage? Is that how I understand that? And push snow out the back of the lot?
I think that's what they want to do. They also want to provide access to their to the trail, but that could also be done with a gate if necessary. But I think the main reason is to provide snow storage access.
Okay, yeah, I think because the gates and the rest of the gate is just, or the fence is just required for screening, correct?
That's correct.
That's my only question.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Freeman. Commissioner Tierney, did you decide whether or not you have any more questions for staff?
I have a quick question. It sounds like there's two different types of fences. And so there's the enclosure fence, and then there's the fence that is screening the parked cars at the back. What about the fence along the sides? Which type is that? The enclosure type or the parking screening type?
I think it's to provide a screening between the two properties. There is an existing fence on the rear of the adjacent property, so I think he's just doing his part to do the screening between neighbors. But you could ask the applicant what he thinks the main purpose is for that fence.
Oh, I just meant I think there's two different types of fence design.
Oh, I believe that's, I don't actually know. I don't know. We'll have to ask the applicant.
Okay, that's fine. I think I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and I don't have any questions for staff at this time, so we'll go ahead and move into clarifying questions for the applicant. Commissioner Tierney.
Okay. Do we have the applicant there? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead.
Hi. Okay. So, have you ever been on the bike path behind there?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do you walk it or bike it or take it downtown?
Yes, I've walked it a few times, and it's not heavily used, but it is definitely used.
Yeah, my family, we use it.
It's a great path. It's a great bike path.
Well, and it's great. I do want to say it's great access for kids to get to the middle school without having to interact with traffic circles and traffic.
Yes.
So, let's see. Where do I start here? Well, let's start with some things that I appreciated. It looks like on the on one of the plan sheets, you talked about your future solar panels.
Yes.
And you also, in your justification letter, talked about your passive solar or your solar gain. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your plan for that? How much percentage of energy offset do you think it would be? Is it for the industrial or just the residential? Fill in any other details. That'd be great.
So the solar panels we're proposing are, at this point, we're going to be used for the residential. I'm looking into storage systems. They have some very great battery storage systems right now that we would probably apply to which would be applied to the residential units. The panel space that we have on that flat roof is capable of probably somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 watts, which is more than enough to supply all the energy needed for the two apartments. I doubt the two apartments would, even at peak time, would ever get more than 6,000 watts of use. So it would be a pretty good, it would be very good, actually. It would nearly no electric use by the residential units is what we would be trying to achieve.
And then have you gotten as far as, are you doing the electric heat in there?
It's probably going to be gas. It's going to be gas furnace, and then the hot water, the domestic hot water, would be gas also. But we're looking into passive solar for the domestic hot water.
And any consideration of using the heat pumps in there that are becoming so much more?
We haven't really gotten into our mechanical with the engineers, so we will probably do whatever is the most efficient.
Okay. I'm just asking, we have a town resolution to try and get towards carbon neutrality. Okay. So that is why I'm bringing those questions up. So is there a reason that you wouldn't want to deed restrict one of those units to that moderate level of $2,300 per month?
Yes, and basically the reasoning is that we're already, for our budget, we are really maxed out. And when we found out about the problems with the easement that exists, and having to change our plans and redo the plans and everything, we realized that we don't really want to add any more restrictions to the property because it's already so encumbered. And my rationale is that those two units, because they will not be, they can only be long-term rentals, and their location, they're above an industrial building. The rental rates are going to be nearly moderate income anyways, or low to moderate income. So we don't feel it's really necessary, and it's really important for us to not encumber the property any more than what we've already found on it. So that's our reasoning.
So what do you estimate that your rental rate would be per month?
Right now, for the smaller unit, it's 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and it would probably be $1,500 to $1,550 a month. And then the 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom unit would probably be $1,800 to $1,700 to $1,800 a month.
So hundreds of dollars less than what you would be able to charge, even if you had the deed restriction on there.
Yes.
Okay. And have you done projects before that were LEED certified at all?
I have not, and I just, after last month's meeting, I did a bunch of research about LEED and to find out what that was all about, and realized I pulled up their point system and read the whole 130 or 170 page point system, and our development code, or our building code for the California, plus what is in addition for Truckee, already gets you to basically a LEED silver. And with the additional points, because of the location of the building, its proximity to the bike trail, its proximity to downtown, could probably achieve a gold LEED. The reason I'd rather not do that is it's a whole lot of paperwork and documentation that comes along with it. Not to mention, I'm not sure what it costs to get that certificate. And I feel that we already achieve that by just following our own building code for California and for the town of Truckee.
Okay, I do want to say, as far as walkability and making a space that is accessible by other methods of transportation, not just cars, I do appreciate the gaps in the fence. And I think that is a benefit to the residents. I think it is a benefit to anybody who is trying to get out of their car and still use our industrial commercial spaces. So I just wanted to say I like that that's part of that. And I think that may be all that I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for letting me know that my microphone was off right there. Thank you, Susie. All right, Commissioner Hall, you have clarifying questions for the applicant.
I do. Okay, so the fence within the setback from I-80, I guess can you just talk about why you need that to encroach within that setback? Because my concern is not visual from I-80, it's just proximity to the trail. And if you could just talk us through, why you need that extra space, that would be helpful for me.
So basically the real issue is the turning radiuses that we're trying to achieve in the parking area, because right now we're looking for zoning clearance for warehouse storage. And we've kind of identified the types of trucks that might be needed to go into that area. And it's really important. That 10 feet is a really big deal in terms of the turning radiuses that we're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. We felt that by putting it that much closer, and yes, it's a little closer to the trail, but it has a nice screening fence to block the cars from the trail. Mm-hmm. It is not visible from I-80 at all. None of that will be visible from I-80. And so that's really the big factor, was the turning radiuses and the ability for trucks to move around in that parking space there.
Okay. And then the covered parking, is that just expense, or again, is it, what's the request?
To be honest with you, under the mixed use part of the development code, I was under understanding that it wasn't required. Yumi might be able to talk to that. But my impression was it wasn't required with the mixed use and the incentives for mixed use.
Yumi, would you mind trying to clarify that?
I'd say that the development code is a little bit unclear. It says the mixed use incentives allows for a reduction of 1 parking space. It doesn't clarify if it's that 1 covered space that's required for each residential unit. I think in the past we've thought maybe that is the case. I think with the last industrial way review that we did, I think it came to our attention that that may be something we need to clean up and discuss if that is something we want to continue to require. But I think just to be safe, or just part of this review, I included it as a part of the plan development to ensure that's pretty clean and you can review it.
And so, sorry, how many covered spaces per like this really conservative interpretation is he supposed to have?
It's 1 each unit, so it'd be each.
Okay, so it's just 2. Yeah. There's just going to be no covered parking.
Yes.
And there are no garages for the units.
That's correct. It'd just be 2 of the on the surface parking, and they only have 2 parking spaces for the residential units per the mixed use requirement.
Okay.
Can I clarify something about the parking? I actually had planned for the industrial units were required 8 parking spaces, so I was going to actually apply 3 of the parking spaces to the residential units. The normal would be 5 parking spaces, so we're in a kind of a compromise. 3 versus 5 would be the normal for 2 units.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Freeman, clarifying questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I was curious why you don't want to have that fence go continuous from the back of the property just to screen the bike path from kind of that rear industrial zone.
We could do that. It was purely about snow removal. We're planning right now to blow most of the snow because of where the location of the bike path is, how it comes out of the pedestrian easement. We talked a little bit about maybe moving the bike path back into the pedestrian easement to make that snow storage easier, but we could conceivably close that and then just do everything by blowing snow.
Yeah, I don't know if that provides a little nicer separation between this back industrial space and the bike path traffic.
Yes.
That was my only question.
Thank you, Commissioner Freeman. So I just have some questions about the project. I know you've stated that this is an investment for you. Is this a speculative project, or do you already have tenants in mind, or what's your plan on this?
This is long term for us. We needed to move to something that was a little more consistent income for my wife and I, and we thought this would probably be the best thing for a long term. We do not have prospective tenants right now. After we had all the problems and it's been taking 3 years, we thought it was a waste of time to try and find tenants when we didn't know how long this was going to take to finish this project. So.
Okay. We reviewed a larger commercial project last month, and that was one of the questions that I had. And the reason why I ask is just because of the certain market uncertainty that we have right now.
Yes.
There's no doubt in my mind that you'll be able to fill up these residential units and probably have a waiting list with no problem at all. I have concerns that some of these small businesses that might have been your target market may not be around. Is that something that you've considered?
It is, and that was actually our fallback before the whole COVID thing happened. Our main fallback was that the residential units would help us service our loans for the project. That was really our part of the big thing about putting the residential units in, is that was a fallback for if our units went vacant for a very long time. Okay. So we're planning for that.
And will you be financing the construction?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and again, the reason why I ask is I just would hate to see a project get started and then, not either go into receivership or not be able to be completed because the prospectus doesn't work anymore, just in case some of these businesses aren't around. But it sounds like you're comfortable that worst case scenario, you could have residents in there and you can service the debt. Okay. That's the only questions I have for now. So I think at this point we will open public comment. Carissa, do we have any public comment for this project?
We do. We have received an email from Sarah Green. She says, I hope that this project does not impose any restrictions or impediments to use of the bike path throughout the year. I and others I know do indeed use the path/trail in the wintertime. I would use it more often if the trail were kept clear of snow. I would also like to point out that the path/trail is sometimes only accessible from the end of the road, trail's end, through the proposed development property. This is due to insufficient snow removal on the path to the east. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Sarah Green. Give me just a moment to refresh the inbox and check for text messages and voicemail. We have nothing further.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Mr. Black, you have an opportunity right now to respond to that public comment if you wish.
I'm not sure about what the snow removal situation is for the bike trail or who's responsible. I think that may be the owners association, but I'm not sure. There's also access to that trail. There is a public utility easement 3 lots down that would be a more appropriate spot for people to access that trail from Trails End Road. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Black. All right, commissioners, let's go ahead and move to deliberation.
Dave, I do have one more question. Sorry, I had asked you, and I forgot to ask the applicant.
Mr. Black, one more question for you, if you're still there.
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. So you might have covered it now, I can't remember. Has there been any contact to the industrial businesses along West River Street that are mentioned in the general plan and that are mentioned in some of your goals? Have you talked to them?
No, I have not had an opportunity to do that. Basically, my idea is that without creating a place for somebody to move to, there's no opportunity there. So we feel that by actually creating this opportunity, there's an opportunity for them to move to a new place. And I have every intention after we gain approval to seek tenants in that area or talk to them about their needs or anything that we might be able to do for them.
So you would consider talking with them, maybe doing first right of refusal or something?
I haven't thought about that, but I definitely would be seeking tenants. So that would be a great resource right there, is the people who along that section of the road that need a new place, or they're looking for something that's expandable for their business if their business is growing.
Okay, thank you. And then can I ask questions of the staff in relation to Sarah Green's comment?
Let's make it brief. Yeah.
Okay, so who is supposed to be doing maintenance? I have found myself up there knee deep in snow. Occasionally, there are definitely some maintenance issues. There's 3 or 4 cracks along the frontage of this property, let alone the root intrusions and the jarring bumps that are there. Is there any responsibility of this property owner to any of those issues?
I would actually defer this question to Mike Vaughn, the engineering representative. I do know that it is the property owners association that's tasked with maintenance, and I do believe that this property owner does need to be part of that association, but the applicant may be able to speak to that a little bit, but I'll defer to Mike on the maintenance of the trail. Mike, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, the trail was constructed as part of the original subdivision, and the property owners association maintains the trail. As far as I don't think there was a requirement for snow removal as part of that maintenance originally. Eventually, if trails around town become part of town maintained trails, then we might consider at that time, but there's not a requirement right now for snow removal during the winter months.
Okay, Mike, can you address Susie's question about the maintenance with regards to root intrusion and cracks?
Yeah, so we do have, if we do get complaints, or if we have, if there's issues or deficiencies with the maintenance, we do contact the Property Owners Association. And in the past, we have gotten some concerns on the trails in that vicinity of Pioneer Commerce Center along Pioneer Trail and Comstock Road. So we are actually in the process of maybe clarifying the maintenance responsibilities for those trails with an agreement with the Property Owners Associations for Pioneer Commerce Center, which also includes the Trails End portion, as well as Pine Forest that goes up along Comstock Drive. So just to kind of put some more clarity to what is responsible for the maintenance part of that.
Great, thanks, Mike. Susie, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And if you could consider this an official complaint, that back section there, as you go from this property to the parking lot of the Pioneer Center, is rough. I don't, yeah. So it sounds like we could not require that as part of this, or ask the applicant if he would be able to help out with some of the cracks and root intrusion.
Well, this is one property owner within that subdivision, and it's the maintenance of it's a responsibility of the overall Property Owners Association. So it wouldn't be something you would probably want to tie to this one specific application.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, let's get back to deliberation. Susie?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so I think there's a lot that I actually like about this. I like this better than the other industrial project we had last month. I like the solar gain. I like the possibility of the solar panels, and even a possibility of solar water heater, at least booster before the gas. I see it falling just a tiny bit short of meeting this third finding for the exemption that they are. Let me look at that wording again. Oops.
You pull that up, Yumi.
So here's what it says: the project achieves other general plan housing, sustainability, or community enhancement goals than those listed in the section. So the things that they have said in their applicant letter and application is that they are achieving affordable housing, and they are achieving moving businesses out of that industrial zone on West River Street. And I see them making steps towards those, but I don't see them achieving them. I see them trying to advance that, but the achievement part, I think, is not there. It might help to have that first right of refusal. I feel like I think it would help to either do the LEED silver or to do the moderate income deed restriction on those. It doesn't seem like that is going to affect the monetary income of this property if you deed restrict it to something that is hundreds of dollars more than what they're planning on getting. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that in order to not water down our affordable housing attempts. So that's how I feel, and there's a lot to like about the project, though, and so I'll hold on for now.
Susie, how do you feel? Do you have any concerns about the fence? I know that everyone's talked about that quite a bit.
For me, as far as walkability for the residents there, as far as even access for customers that are going to come to that zone, I like not closing in the fence. I like what Yumi said about taking the other trees that would be required along the side and add it to the back. It might even be nice to have a little trail so that they can access that without bushwhacking through their landscaping there. But I like the openness of it because that increases walkability of the property. It would allow other residents nearby to get to that path without having to, bushwhack to 3 blocks down or whatever. So I like the open fence thing. As far as walkability, that is a way to get people out of their cars and to get people using their feet.
Okay, great. Anything else?
I think that's all that I have. It would be nice as part of this if they were to relocate that trail to try and fix. There's about 3 or 4 big cracks and then at least 2 to 4 big root intrusions on there. But I don't know. It doesn't sound like we can ask them to do that. So.
Okay. Commissioner Hall.
There. Yumi, can we move to the slide that has all the issues that we want to consider? I think you had them all summarized on one. Okay, so I don't think that there's the visibility from 80 is an issue. Let's see, we didn't really talk about the building designs much. And actually, can we jump to the building designs now? It did sort of feel like, see how there's the southeast, let's just look at the southeast one, and then the garage, not the garage, but the pop out. What's on top of that? There we go. Thank you. Is that just
flat
is that the roof line or is? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's likely a flat parapet roof. I would imagine. Looks like there's some scuppers and some down leaders, so it's probably about a 6-inch down to a flat roof beyond that.
It is the location of the future solar panels.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Can you go back?
Letter did also mention having a little parapet wall to screen those from view as well.
Yeah, that would be good. All right, do you mind going back to the other slide, Yumi? Sorry, you're making you jump around here. Thanks. As far as the fence, I'm struggling whether having it open or closed is better. I've been on that path as well, and we use that. And I'm not sure I want to be able to look in and see cars and industrial uses, but at the same time, I like the walkability. So I would probably tend to want to enclose it and maybe include sort of a gate structure. And then in terms of the landscaping, whether we should transfer, I think all the areas that were shown in green, I think it was like the 87 square feet, all of that linear feet should be, I think that should all be landscaped. Yeah, the 83 lineal feet for the residents. I don't quite know how the 50-foot side connects with the adjacent uses, but on the 33-foot side, it does feel to me like that should be landscaped. But I also feel like maybe, we should be considering landscaping along the 137-foot stretch that may be extended now if we decide to enclose that. Let's see, what am I missing? Thank you. I actually think their design, I would consider it, very close to a superior design, and allowing the exemption to move forward. That's about all I have for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Freeman.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very difficult site with all the different easements and whatnot and setbacks. I kind of agree with Commissioner Hall across the board. I'd like to see that fence along the back be continuous to provide more screening from the bike path. I don't really foresee that many people from the bike path walking through the back of this property where there's one or two or three businesses and a couple tenants. And so that whatever is going on in that industrial zone back there can be kind of contained. And then adding the landscaping again to help kind of dress up the perimeter of the property and provide additional screening. And I think with those two items, this is a superior design. I mean, it's a very, very challenging lot, and I think it provides a nice kind of multi-use for that area.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it does check a lot of boxes. And I am hopeful that by the time this and some of these other projects get going, that they will have tenants, because we do, particularly in the manufacturing space, because we have such a shortage of that. The broken fence line to me does feel a little disjointed. I would prefer to have that be complete and with a gate, so that if the people that were utilizing that property wanted to get onto that bike path, you know, they could just walk to the back of the property. But not having that just kind of disjointed look from that bike path. Yeah, I do think the trees should stay in. Yeah, and it's, you know, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't approve this today.
I have a quick question. We didn't talk about actually putting landscaping in those areas. Yumi's question was whether or not we wanted to take that required landscaping and add it to the back of the property. If you put the landscaping in those areas, then you lose a parking space, you alter their fence lines, you move their trash enclosure. So I'm a little confused on that. You alter the parking spaces on the 50-foot side as well. There's no room right now for that landscaping.
Yeah, can I interject? I'll clarify. Commissioner Tarnay is correct that the applicants are requesting that we don't require landscaping in those areas, the highlighted green areas. And I was proposing in my presentation to move whatever landscaping would have been required within those areas to the rear, if you thought it was okay to not allow for that perimeter landscaping in those locations. You may still find that this landscaping is still necessary, so you don't necessarily have to grant this plan development request, but that was my suggestion if you did decide to go down that path, and then we could build that into the conditions of approval since they're not currently in there right now.
So you're saying we would take 83 feet and apply 83 feet of trees to that 137 foot in the back?
That, yes. Or you could just say, no, we don't need to have that landscaping, or you can require some sort of site design modification to require the landscaping where they're supposed to be, where it's supposed to be.
Okay. How does everybody else feel about those options?
I was fine with adding it to the back and putting more screening between the bike path and the pavement.
Commissioner Hall?
Yeah, I would be fine with that. And thanks for the clarification. I mean, I wish something could go in there just to give those residences some softening on those edges. But I mean, I see that they have stuff along the north there. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Freeman?
Yeah, I would agree also. And I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. So do we want to have a motion that we approve this with the amendment of the adding those trees to the 83 linear feet of trees to the 137 foot at the rear of the property?
I'm fine with that. Does anyone feel that you would be feel better about moving businesses off of West River Street if we ask them to offer a first right of refusal to the businesses located there?
you know, I mean, how do we define what the first right of refusal? You know, what's the time frame? You know, that just seems to me that gets a little bit sticky. You know, I
was just going to chime in and say that in the past, the commission has used words like encourage, if you want to include that in your motion, so that there's a record of it. But this is one of those things that would be very challenging for us to enforce. It's really kind of outside of the scope of what this applicant's asking for the commission to review tonight.
Yeah, you know, I would agree with that. I think that just, Susie, I understand your sentiment and I agree with that. But I think it's just, there's so many moving pieces in something like this. You know, one of the main things being when those businesses, when their lease is up, right? You know, so trying to give first right of refusal to, you know, one of the businesses down on West River Street, and they say, yeah, we'd love to have one of those spaces, but then, you know, there's an overlap of maybe they've got a year left in their lease, and now Mr. Black has invested millions of dollars in a property, and now he's got a vacant space, you know, to the detriment of his family and his, you know, his investment. So I would agree with Danielle, like we can encourage him, but I wouldn't want to tie that to this project.
I agree with that.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
I just want to make sure one more time, and no one feels that we should try and have it be deed restricted to a moderate income, even though that is hundreds of dollars more than what he plans on asking.
I'm not supportive of that. You know, I mean, especially this, I mean, it's hard to get developments like this to pencil. And I think we need to have, I think the property owner needs to be in control of how he's going to operate his business, which is this property. You know, he's already got himself into a piece of dirt that was a heck of a lot more complicated than he thought it was. And, you know, I don't want to hamstring him any further, even though it sounds like he's going to be coming in at a lower rent price anyways.
Yeah, I would agree. His description of the rent that he envisions and who he envisions renting, to me, it almost feels like it autocorrects as it without moving towards a deed restriction.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-10, approving the zoning clearance, minor use permit, plan development, project amendment, and sign plan based on the findings and conditions of approval, and determining the project exempt from CEQA for Section 1506B3.
I'll second.
And
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Frank.
I was going to add the added notes and changes to condition of approval number 32 for the easements, and the change to relocating the landscaping from the side property lines to the rear of the property.
I'll second. Clarissa, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Wait, did you want to make a note about the fence or what?
Oh, and continuing the fence, or making the fence continuous along the rear of the property as well.
With a gate. Do we want to put a gate?
I think that we can leave the gate up to the property owner. It sounds like that he wants to have the walkability there. Okay, Yumi, did you get all that?
Yes, and I think I had one other question that may not be that important. For the landscaping condition, there was an added requirement for additional landscaping based off the scenic corridor requirements. We weren't quantifying that within the conditions of approval. Are you okay with them working with staff directly to figure out what that could look like and not necessarily require quantification beyond what we've discussed in this modification today? I think you're muted.
Thank you. Commissioners, are we okay with the applicant working with staff in regards to the landscaping requirements?
I am.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. Can we please have a roll call vote, Carissa?
Vice Chair Gove,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hull,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnay,
I think I'm going to say no, even though it will pass anyway.
motion passes.
Okay. So we're going to move on. Thank you, Mr. Black. We're going to move on to staff reports. And seeing none, we're going to move on to agenda item number 8, upcoming commission meetings and agenda. Jenna, can you speak to that, please?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
We are still somewhat finalizing our agenda for next month, but it appears to be similar to tonight, but a different planner. It will be the Laura Dabe show next month. She's got several projects that'll be before you. Yumi thankfully gets a break. We should know more probably in the next day or so on what our final agenda is, but Laura will be here with, I think, about 4 projects for your consideration. As you guys are all aware, we are 2 months behind schedule because we didn't hold meetings in March and April, so we're really trying to catch everything up. We've got a minor project amendment for Elements, snow removal company, and a couple other things. So that'll probably be a very full agenda, and I don't think we yet know if we're starting at 4 o'clock, but we'll certainly let everyone know as soon as we can.
Thanks, Jenna. Okay, agenda item number 9, commissioner reports. Susie?
Hi. This month I went to look at Frishman Hollow. I went over to this location. Last month I took a class on preventing erosion from job sites, and yeah, there's not really a lot of meetings happening right now, so I think that's about all I have. Although I have been watching all of the town council meetings as well. So there we go.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hall, anything to report?
So I've actually been attending every meeting you could imagine. Placer County Board of Soups, town halls, NLTRA stakeholder meetings, TRPA outdoor rec meetings, reopening around in the region. It's been amazing, and it's been very informative, and it's very interesting to see how our counties and the town and everyone's working together to reopen safely, and it's been quite positive, the coordination.
Excellent.
Oh, sorry, I did attend that vigil and that town hall after it.
Anything to report, Commissioner Freeman?
Nothing to report.
Okay, and I too have nothing to report. So the next meeting of the Planning Commission is on Tuesday, July 21st, 2020 at tentatively scheduled for 6 p.m. right now. As Jenna said, that may be changed to 4 p.m., but we will find out later. So at this point, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.